We are live.
All right, y'all. Welcome to All Politics of Local America's number one local hip hop radio talk show. Well, listen, y'all know if it is Friday and it is the fourth Friday, y'all know what time it is. Y'all know it is time for the disciples with my beloved brothers and sisters, the men and women of God. So we're gonna have an absolutely incredible conversation tonight. So they're gonna be up first, and then of course, Zaid, we got Sister Doctor Chris Pernell coming in. That's big, brother.
It is very
Yes.
big. We're very grateful to have her. Look forward to her presence. She's a very important presence in our community. We can have a sane, important, very clear-headed talk about the challenge of this Delta virus, this Delta variation, the still clear and present danger that is COVID-19. Absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the questions I want to have with her is about this booster shot. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I'm glad you got her coming on, man, because we trying to get folks to take one shot and then two shots. Now we're talking about a booster shot. Oh hell
Right.
no! You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we got to talk to that sister, brother. And then of course you got our
Very
beloved
happy.
beloved Elder coming in. Brother Larry, the chairman of the People's Organization for Progress, coming through, right?
Yes. This Saturday, National Day of Action for Voter Rights. Action in several cities, but the principal city, of course, is Washington, D.C., because Saturday is not only the anniversary of the slaying of Emmett Till, the lynching of Emmett Till, it is the anniversary of the March on Washington. So that day was chosen to uplift the whole question of voting rights as a number of state houses that are Republican led in this country are trying to repress and suppress voting rights in an effort to try and take back what they lost in the last election and continue that backward steam to the right that went kind of crazy under you know who when he was in the White House.
Right, right.
That's important talk.
Yep. And then after that, we're gonna have the state of hip hop with DJ Rhino, and we're gonna have a special featured guest tonight, Hakim Greene.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Oh, Hakeem, all right.
Yep. He's gonna be on tonight as well.
Every time y'all say Hakeem, you know who I think about, right?
Who?
Eddie Murphy, remember? Coming to America, Hakeem?
Ah, okay. Right. One and two.
Huh? Prince
Coming to
Hakeem.
America 1 and 2.
Prince Hakeem. Yes.
Prince Hakeem, brother. You know? All right, so listen, y'all. I don't see the rest of the disciples, but of course I see the Queen. She's in the building. So I'm gonna go on and throw it to Queen's sister, Reverend Roundtree. It's of course their show. We just along for the ride. I appreciate
Yep.
them letting us hang out. So Sister Roundtree, I don't know where your co-hosts are, but of course I'm gonna throw it to you. You gotta unmute yourself.
I just did.
Okay.
Well, I'm just excited on this for Friday to be on All Politics are Local, where this is America's number one hip hop. All right, there we go. Um, Station, and of course our co-hosts are running just a few minutes, a tad bit late, but it's once again an honor to be here with you, Brother Ed and Brother Jonathan, and of course my comrade Baba Zaid. So there's so much going on in the city of Newark. I don't know who's going to navigate this conversation on tonight, but I'm just excited to be here. Of course, I represent the Mayor's Office of Clergy Affairs, as well as the Newark Interfaith Alliance and many other entities that I am a part of. But tonight, it's the disciples that are going to be represented. Minister Abdul Haq is on his way, and I gather my big brother, Pastor Ali, is having some technical difficulties, but we do know that Brother Ed and Brother Jonathan are very capable, along with Brother Baba Zaid, of navigating this conversation and moderating where this conversation will go tonight for the disciples. Once again, I'm excited because a lot of things. There he is, Pastor Ali, our pastor in the hood, Lady Ali's. Well, let me say this: the man who First Lady of this generation, Belina Ali, makes look really good. So we're thankful that New Psalmist and our pastor in the hood is now straightened out his technical issues. And it is now in your hands, Pastor Ali.
Can you hear us, Ali?
I don't think he can hear us.
Okay.
Nah. Well, I tell you what. Why don't we do this? You know, Sister
I got
Roundtree.
some stuff to talk about, but you go ahead and start the conversation, and I'll talk about the other stuff later.
So you know, I mean, you know, the buzz is that, you know, this week, of course, you organize the men and women of God in only the way you can, and you know, that's why you have that network that you have. Talk about that. Tell us, how did that go, and of course, you know, what was it that made you decide to get involved?
So as we know, when catastrophes happen and tragedies happen, whether it's in Newark or abroad, we have a mayor that is a praying man, and what we're thankful for is that God moved on his heart to make a phone call and say, you know, call the men and women of God together, and let's see, first, can we pray for these individuals? Pray for this country, pray, you know, just put out the Macedonian call to God to work on our spiritual connection, work with our spiritual connection to reach out to Haiti, to let them know that we are here, not just praying for them, but also organizing some things to assist them. Prayer is good, but Pernell Hamm stated that you can pray all day long, but if you don't get up off your knees and do something, it's not going to drop in your lap. So when
prayer without works is dead.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
You're praying and faith. So we have the faith in the people. Faith without works is dead. We have the faith in the people that we're working with and the faith leaders that we're coming together automatically on that Saturday after prayer. A date was set up starting Saturday of last week at 10 a.m., no, 4 p.m., to start dropping off of things that were needed, medical supplies, brand new clothing, water, non-perishables, things that we could ship to Haiti. This is going to be a long journey. I know we remember what happened in Puerto Rico. It's not going to happen overnight. These people are going to need things. And then we have to think about the families that were not able to reach their families right here. We have a lot of families right here in New Jersey and in Newark that are connected to a lot of individuals in Haiti.
Yeah, listen, one of my babies from Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, Sister Cass, right?
Yes,
a lot of people don't realize that Cass is Haitian, and she had problems connecting with her family.
So Verizon, for those of you who had Verizon service, it was brought to our attention at that. I told them it wasn't no press conference, it was a prayer conference. So even though the cameras were there to figure out what we were going to do and ask these various questions, after we did the prayer conference, we did identify the location, Family Manor, 795 Sanford Avenue, for these items to be dropped off. After Sunday of this week, there will be some further instructions as to where we're going and what's going to happen and what type of events we'll be having to assist Haiti. But once again, you don't have to wait for Sunday for what we're going to do. You can start gathering now, and I will give out my number for now to my office, 973-733-5605. And if you're interested, you can get information from my office as to what else you can do, and we will direct you. Imagine being Verizon is doing free service, and I didn't finish that announcement until August 31st. You can call and they will not charge you until August 31st. Those who are trying to reach loved ones, or can reach loved ones, I should say, there will be no charge for their service. I don't have any other information that was brought to me at the prayer conference that Verizon is offering that service to loved ones here in New Jersey that are trying to reach or that are reaching out to their loved ones. Verizon will not be charging.
Yeah, I know they just put me on.
To that.
But I can't hear nothing.
So we can hear you now. We can hear him now. Can you
We
guys
can hear him. He can't hear us. Still struggling.
Yeah, we can hear him. So, Pastor, brother, I'm going to call you Pastor Riley. There is a Pastor Riley and Elizabeth as well.
But Pastor Ali, can you hear me at all?
John, you frozen as well, brother.
All right. So I guess
He's
I'll
not
have to take
frozen
this
on my
out.
screen.
Yeah, I can hear Jonathan. Jonathan's okay on
No,
mine.
we can hear Jonathan.
Yeah.
But Jonathan is frozen.
Are you Am I frozen on your screen as well?
No, not on mine.
Okay.
No, Ali look like he moving, so you know.
All right. So well let's continue. And what I'll do is I'll try to reach him through back channel and try to help him out. All right. So Pastor Roundtree, you can continue.
Well,
So Roundtree, so I see, Brother Zaid, you put a phone number in the chat. Is that phone number for?
That's Roundtree's number. She just gave us
right. That's my number for now.
Okay.
I will give further instructions. It'll be on social media.
Okay.
I will. Yes, I will definitely put more information into social media after Sunday. But for now, if they call my office on Monday, I'll be able to further direct them. But the drop-off location is 795 Sanford Avenue, Newark, New Jersey for now.
Okay. Also, remember, anything you put in the private chat, only people on the show, only people who are backstage can actually see. If you want everyone to see it, it should go into the public chat or the public comments.
Went in.
All right. All right. So
and once it shows up, John, who's working? You or Mike?
me right now.
All right. So when that shows up, put it up there so people can see her number. See Roundtree's number.
Also,
all right. Great. But someone should put it in the actual. When they put it in the comment section, we'll put it up there.
Okay.
But you can continue the conversation.
Barbara, would you put that in? Because for some reason it's not letting me put anything in the chat.
Yeah, I did. I'm having a keyboard issue on some of mine.
All right, so it's funny. It's looking like we're having technical issues all around.
Yeah.
The devil is a liar. You just keep
Devil's
on
a liar, though. We're gonna be good.
He know what good news that Brother Ali has to share. That's why he's doing that.
Oh, that's right.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah, he know that brother's gonna tell us tonight about the healer that showed up. Right?
Come on here. Come on here. Listen, while he on his way, because can't nobody tell your story like you. We can talk about it, but can't nobody tell it like Ali. We witnessed it, but can't nobody tell it like him because it happened to him.
Yeah, he does, and that's why he doing. This devil is doing everything he can to prevent that camera from working in there.
That's all right. We'll testify for him. We'll let him know that he's alive for a purpose. And whatever the enemy meant for bad, God turned it around for his good. And that's why he's still here. Because his work is not, don't make me start. Because while he on his way, I'm going to build it up, First Lady Ali, and make sure that individuals know that, wait a minute, it's called Don't Give Up. You cannot have a give up spirit. And the whole time he was going through. So imagine being on your back going through while doctors are working on you, not sure what's going on. The same thing happens in the workspace and in the secular world and in our movement and in being activists and being community organizers. We can't give up because we don't know what's on the other side of the not give up. Or the don't give up. Mm-hmm. We have no clue. We don't know what the future holds. I mean, like, you got folks walking around and say they're prophets and future tellers, but the word that I read says that I know the plans I have for you, and I know that they're not to hurt or harm you. So we don't know what the future holds, but we know one thing, that Team Ali is a winning team because they didn't give up.
That's right.
Don't dare make the mistakes.
It looked like the man of the hour is finally in.
Right?
Come on, yes.
Yeah, I kept on getting thrown out. I couldn't hear.
We got you
now, right?
Come on in.
Wait a minute. While God blocked what the enemy was trying to do to you, God has opened up the door for you to come on and talk about it to the people that are tuned in to All Politics and Local today.
Well, to God be the glory. I had storm, health challenges, vocal challenges. I get a Botox shot for my throat, for my voice. So this is the recuperation period. But I was in the hospital with a blocked lower bowel, and my AFib went out of whack. And this time it was really a trial. It was a tribulation, but God brought me through because the doctors took their time with me, and they were talking about doing surgery. But one of the risks of the surgery would be that I might end up with a colostomy bag. And that why I won't feel in that, you know. And here it is, I prayed.
She was
And
like,
so many prayed, and God brought me through. I didn't have to have the surgery, which in turn means I don't have no colostomy bag.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm still recovering.
Yes, sir.
I'm about 80%.
Yes,
So I've
sir.
been working from my inside office. So I've been doing my home stuff, and I'll get back hopefully next week into some of my outside the home responsibilities. But this time I'm taking it slow because I realize at 62, Zaire, I'm not as young as I used to be. And my
All the
body,
time is undefeated.
my body is telling me that time is precious.
That's
That's
right.
right.
You're
That's
only
right.
allotted a certain number of breaths. But let me say this. I got to shout both of you and your queen out because you both have been pictures of grace, fighting some serious medical challenges. And yet I want to claim this space and time in the soon future for our beloved sister, his first lady, Sister Belina Ali, who has been with in a very courageous way, battling her own mental health challenge, one very particular to Black women,
that's right.
right? And at some point, I'd like to bring her on. And there's
Yeah.
another, I have another
Right.
queen who I have a long history with, who also, beat a similar challenge, right? And both of them strong on faith, right? Yeah, we got you, Queen. Lord, I thank you for my
That's
future.
right.
That's right. We claiming you. We claiming you,
That's
right?
right.
We see the battle. We see the dignity. We see the faith. And then there's no miracles without faith, right?
And she's a bad
And
girl.
this creator that we all
True.
acknowledge proudly and defiantly, no matter who the enemy or oppressor is, can grant us any miracle or any bounty that he or she decrees, and can't
Well,
nobody stop
listen.
it. So I just wanted to shout that and claim that because Sister Belina had kept us steady while you were going through the challenge. We were checking in with each other just to make sure that we had you. All right. So right on to that. All power, all praise. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Brother
well,
Zaire, nothing
you
but
know,
victories on this show. You was a victory. Pastor Ali is a victory. Lady Belina is a victory.
That's
You
right.
all have some stories to tell because the enemy truthfully came up in Ali's home. But when I tell you that Belina Ali, first lady of this generation, served him an eviction notice at the door, she was
Yeah.
like, "You not coming in here. You not pack your
Served him an
take your
eviction notice.
bags and go in another direction." Somebody said somewhere else that she pulled up a U-Haul truck and said, "Take all your mess with you." Right on that where it came from, because you ain't moving up in here, in the hospital, in the house. Get out, it's done. She put on the boxing gloves and went out in the street and ran him down the street around the corner and said, "And don't come back."
Behind.
And took her foot and kicked him down the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
God be the glory.
Warrior.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Well,
Sure.
every good artist, right, need a hype man. Well, in this case, every good pastor need a good hype queen.
That's right.
And man, she was on deck, right? I think everybody on Facebook was tuning in from time to time. I think I saw the service over and over and over again, and then I started saying to myself, "What is that they say, Ali? The fervent prayer, right? It wasn't just a
Right.
prayer,
Yes.
Of
It was the
righteous.
fervent prayer
Heavy,
of a righteous woman.
heavy,
Right?
thick prayer.
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah. And that's what opened the doors and dialed everything back, right? It was that fervent prayer.
The people prayed fervently.
Yeah. That's what happened.
Praying more than I can.
We prayed. We prayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We prayed.
And remember, Ali, and remember, there's a song that says that I remember in church, people used to sing, "Whose report will you believe?"
Will you believe?
Right?
That's a song too.
Yeah, the report of the Lord. Ali, they were out there giving the wrong report on you, right?
Yeah.
They were giving false reports, and his the first lady, she got to give the right report. She said, "No, that's the wrong report."
Clear the air.
You got to receive the report of the Lord. Here's the one I'm gonna give, right? No matter what was going on, at the whole time she was speaking life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Speaking life, right?
And life prevailed.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, Ali. What you showed was in your testimony was you showed how you live from tragedy to victory, right?
Right.
From tragedy to triumph.
Right. From how you go from being on your sick bed and know that. And I remember that song. I forget the preacher who used to sing it. He used to sing "Healer, Healer, Healer." Remember that song?
Dr. Timothy Wright.
Dr. Wright. Yeah, man. Oh my God, brother. I kept thinking about that song the whole time, brother. I said, man, Jesus, right? And it just kept playing in my head, man. And I said, man. And when I wrote your press release today, I said, Ali's got to tell us about the healer because he showed up for him. And he know that's real.
That's right. That's right.
He heals me. Over and
Y'all
over.
gonna love y'all. I can't wait for this youngster to come on behind me.
Continuous healing.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a good idea to talk to have a topic on healing because you know I was asked just yesterday, but they were talking about. As a matter of fact, minister when he comes on to do a day of atonement for forgiveness, but you can't forgive until you've been healed.
That's right. There's no atonement. There's no forgiveness.
You can't
acknowledgement of the wrong.
You can't forgive somebody if you still all. We do, but it's not whole. So I can say I can forgive you, but if I'm broken inside, so that's another form of healing. But the healing that Pastor Ali and Lady Ali has had to experience is not just a healing of their body, because their minds had to be attacked during the process. When she attacked, when her body with the carcinoma, with the illness, the ailment that attacked her body, her mind had to be going through a healing process. Because if it's not, you will go crazy with what's attacking your body. And I tell people all the time, when you're under attack, that you've got to be as positive as you can, because the negativity will eat you up just as quick as the sickness will.
Right.
I don't know if y'all get that. And
so true.
Ductal carcinoma. That's what she had.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I watched Lady Ali on social media speak life all through the process.
Follow us. That's right.
There was some days.
Follow like a hawk. That's right. Eyes on the prize.
Yeah.
I know there's some days she wanted to go through. Pastor, our brother, the Honorable Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad is in the show somewhere. He is on, and I'm trying to find our brother that represents the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, our lead host on the show. I don't know. He texted me. He said he on the show.
Well, he's if he is, he's probably back there. John got to plug him in. But I just want to keep talking about this good news right now, because one of the things peace, brother Hawk. I just want to say, man, I appreciate the living, walking, breathing God that showed up and saved our brother Ali. I just want to say thank you to God for that. And I want that to be public, because I know Ali is a tremendous man of God, but his life has showed up as an incredible testimony. showed up as an incredible witness for God. And I think that what, because black folk have such little faith, right? And I think that Ali showed us what faith looks like in walking, living, breathing, and on his sick bed. He showed us what it looked like. So I want to say that I thank God, and I told the first lady when he was going through this, I said I'm in agreement with everything she's saying. I didn't need to say nothing. I was just in agreement. Why? Because the scripture says wherever 2 or 3 in agreement, he said he's also there, right? So I didn't need to do nothing but agree. So I agree, and I agree with his healing, and I agree with all the progress that Ali is making right now. Praise God.
God be glory.
All praise.
Thank you, brother Ed. I appreciate it as well, dear brother. Pastor Ali has been a very hard-working servant of Almighty God. We thank him for his tenacity, his resilience. Over the many years, he has been a stalwart in the city of North, activist. We call him Pastor in the Hood for a reason.
That's right.
Pastor Ali is in the hood.
That's right.
And we know that the Bible says in the book of Luke, the 5th chapter, the 31st verse, they that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. For I came not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance. And you know, Pastor Ali, as well as Brother Ed, Brother Zaid, Reverend Roundtree, that we are sick people, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. So Pastor Ali is always there with our brothers and sisters on the front lines. He's been there. He's very consistent. He's very dedicated, and he's very humble.
That's right.
Almighty God for his intervention in our affairs, and particularly in the affairs of our pastor in the hood, Pastor Ali Bryant. So we thank you, dear brother, for being a walking and a living testimony.
Yes.
Yep.
And we love you, and we pray that God will continue to heal you and your wife and your family, and continue to strengthen you, dear brother.
Bless you, man.
Appreciate you, and we love you here at the Disciples. I know, Brother Ed, I can speak for him. All politics are local. So we thank you for your hard work, dear brother, your dedication, and your resilience and faith.
Bless you. We love you.
That's right,
Yes,
brother.
Sir.
And we what we gonna do, brother, is we're gonna make sure we give our brother his flowers so he can see him.
That's right.
Right.
See him and smell him.
We're gonna make sure he get him, make sure he see him, and like Roundtree just said, and smell him.
That's right.
We're gonna make sure of that.
Wait a minute. You know the story. You know the story about the lady at the cemetery at the funeral, and came in with this big old pot of soup, and everybody was looking at her, wondering why is she coming in with all this, with this soup. And she said, well, if he can smell all these flowers laying up here, he can eat some of this soup. We're not doing it like that. We're not doing that. We're going to make his soup now.
Right.
That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're
do.
Give him his soup now.
That's right. And that's something that we don't do enough, particularly as Black people and human beings in general, in terms of our leadership. We appreciate your leadership, Pastor Ali. Again, you've been very dedicated, not just to the activism, but to your faith. So we really appreciate that, because it's very difficult to not be corrupt in a world full of corruption.
You're true.
So we thank you for never selling your people out, for never selling your soul.
Whoa, brother. Say that one more time. That brother never sold his people out.
Yeah, never selling your people out, never selling your soul. For again, we know the scripture says, what do it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul in the process? Yep. The Bible also says, woe to the shepherd that feeds himself and not the flock.
That's right.
Louis Farrakhan said it's okay for the shepherd to wear the wool that comes from the sheep, but he also should be leading the sheep to green pastures.
Right.
And we know that's what you have done. So again, brother, we appreciate you and we love you.
Yes, sir.
And we pray again that God will continue to heal you, your wife, and your family.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm here for all that, brother. Now, brother Ali and Sister Roundtree and of course, brother Zaid. I gotta tell y'all, at the men's meeting, brother Abdul Haq Muhammad was on fire.
He laid it.
I got to tell y'all that all of our ancestors showed up. I got to tell you that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad showed up. I got to tell you that Farrakhan was on deck with the original salute because brother was killing it, man. I mean, at one point, I mean, of course, if y'all want to see it, the whole video is on our Facebook page. But brother Ali, at one point, right, he kept saying, you know how the speaker keeps saying, "I'm going to conclude it." The spirit wouldn't let him do it, brother.
Wouldn't let him quit.
The spirit wouldn't let him do it. Every time he said, "This is it." It didn't happen, brother. And even the mayor at one point, brother, you know, a Zaid, you know how at the Apollo, brother, you get the hook, right?
That's right.
Brother Al Tariq was over there with the hook, and the mayor had to dial him back, brother. The mayor said, "No, brother." He said, "You got to let him go, brother." I mean, let me tell you something, brother. This brother was dropped. I've never seen Hawk at his final moment, brother. Brother Hawk,
that's saying a lot,
salute, brother.
That's saying a lot. That's saying a lot, Hawk. I remember the first time I saw this young man. He was sitting in the back in City Hall and just made a comment in the discussion. I said, "When they gonna push this young brother forward?" Right? Shortly after that, there he was.
Whoa. 8 years ago, I was introduced to this brother, and nobody really knew yet. They didn't know, and I just had this thing in me. I said, "You know what? I'm gonna ask this brother to pray on the steps of City Hall." This was April of 2014. I think it was April 26th to be exact. I didn't know him. He had just been planted and to sow into Mars 25 on Middleton Avenue. He was positioned there as the leader. And I said, "Oh my Lord." He got up there and started talking and about bourgeoisie Negroes and wait a minute. And I said, "Oh my Jesus." Because I had maybe about 60 preachers there, 60 pastors, African, Muslims, a lot of folks he knew. And I said, "This brother is fire." But I realized that no matter what the narrative was, that there was no fear in his heart to tell the truth.
Well, you know, Reverend Roundtree, Pastor Ali, Brother Ed, I really appreciate your kind words. But there's a scripture in the book of Malachi.
Okay, here we go.
It says, "Will a man rob God?"
Yes.
And I learned
Malachi 3:10.
The first time I heard that was from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We was giving him praise as it relates to all of the great work that he has done. And he said, "Will a man rob God?" And he said, "I cannot take credit for any ounce of good that I've done." He said, "All praise belongs to God."
Right.
He has always taught us that man and woman is really not fashioned to handle praise.
That's right.
So we do our best to get it off of us. We say all praise belongs to God because he's the author and the finisher of our faith. And without him, we are nothing. But Brother Ed, Pastor Ali, Reverend Roundtree, Brother Zaid, I think that men's meeting was very necessary. It was very timely, especially with the work that we've been doing as it relates with the Newark Peace Agreement, so many other great organizations in the city of Newark, the Newark Community Street Team, Fathers on Fire. You know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have taught us that no one man or organization can do it all.
That's right.
But collectively, unity will solve 95% of our problems. And Newark nationally has been getting a lot of praise as it relates to the reduction in violence and crime. You know, but it's a collective effort. We've all been doing our part. We've all been on the battlefield. Reverend Roundtree, she's been going out with many of the pastors, the preachers, the clergy, doing prayer walks, praying for our people to and fro's in the highways and byways. And you know that this scourge and this plague of violence on our community is not new. Many of these beefs and these conflicts that we are seeing happening in our cities, they're historic. And our community is suffering from it, and we are all wounded. And Reverend Roundtree, I heard, was talking about when I first came on. I called it yesterday, and I said, "Reverend Roundtree, I know that we are doing a lot, but I really want to have a day of atonement in the city of Newark because as a community, collectively, we are all wounded. We are all wounded. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan have taught us that you cannot live in a world like this world and not have something happen to you. So we're all suffering. We're all struggling with some sort of emotional or psychological wound. And we really begin to need to atone to what we have done to ourselves and atone to what we have done to one another. So I pray, Brother Ed and Reverend Roundtree and Pastor Ali and Brother Zaid, that's something that I said in that men's meeting, that it resonated and that it potentially saved a life. You know, so I thank God again for his inspiration and for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for imparting all that he has imparted it in me. So.
And one thing I would like to just add, just in terms of asking a question about Minister Muhammad. Like the Nation of Islam has a history within Newark, has a history within the United States, and you talked about it working with other organizations inside of Newark. Can you be more specific in terms of the good that's being done right now that you are helping with other organizations in Newark? Like what is that role, especially in the peace agreement? And give us some background on that, because I don't think a lot of people recognize the work that's being done. I think that the nation is always open to lots of criticisms all around, right? Like we hear the criticisms, we see it all the time, and people always ask, why do people work with the Nation of Islam? Why do people have why, right? And I think that you answer a lot of that, but can you address that more specifically, especially in light of the peace agreement and what's at stake in the city of Newark? Like, what are the things that you're concerned about that you are joining with other organizations to try to push back?
Well, you know, Brother Jonathan, as I mentioned during the men's meeting, in education, they say that data drives the instruction. And if you look at the data as it relates to where Black men, Black women, Black people in general are concerned as it relates to what they call quote unquote Black on Black violence. I read some of the statistics. I started reading an article that appeared in the New York Times in 2015 where it said, where have all the Black men gone? And in this particular article was talking about how there were over 1.5 million Black men missing, and how Black women who are not in jail between the ages of 25 and 54, they outnumber Black men 100 to 83. For every 83 Black men, there are 100 Black women. And we see statistics like this all the time. The Gifford Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, again, specifically in New Jersey, they said that although Black men only account for 8% of the population, we make up 70% of the victims of homicide. Again, the CDC says that the leading cause of death for Black men in America between the ages of 1 through 44 is gun homicide. So we see these dismal numbers. And although Black people, we are in need of many things as it relates to economics, housing, so many things we are in desperately need of. I know what we are in need of first and foremost is taught to us by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the knowledge of self. They said because anyone who does not have a knowledge of self can be considered to be a victim of amnesia, unconscious, and is not very competent. So our lack of knowledge of self is one of the primary reasons that we do the evil that we do to one another. It's not that we are bad people, but we are lacking that requisite knowledge, which is the knowledge, again, of who we are. So not having a proper self-concept, it causes us to do harm to one another. I mean, that's just extraordinary. So again, my fight and our fight has been to teach our people a knowledge of who they are and not what America has made us into. Because I, like many of our brothers and sisters who are out there in the street doing harm to one another, I was ignorant. I didn't have the knowledge of self. I was doing harm to myself and to others. Why? Because I was a bad individual or because I was cursed by God? No. But I had been deprived of the richness of my history, the richness of who God created me to be, and not what the circumstances had made me into. So again, although our people need many things, Sister Tamika Mallory just wrote a book called State of Emergency. Black people, we are in a state of emergency, in a state of crisis. And it's not just the pandemic. The pandemic has just added on another layer to what we had already been suffering from. So again, the violence that we do to one another, it must stop, because again, our communities are being ravished and they're being torn apart. So again, Reverend Roundtree, myself, many other organizations in the city of North, that's been a primary thing that we've been trying to do. Get our people to see the value of themselves and to stop doing harm to one another. And the North Peace Agreement is a component. It's a step on a staircase to our transformation. It's not the all and be all, again, because we need a lot. But again, we need to come to some type of agreement as a community that will help us to properly engage with one another and resolve our conflicts. Because one of the things that slavery robbed us of, it was a system that will help us to arbitrate our affairs. And sadly, the Black community have been missing that. There are 18,000 police departments in America, 18,000. But when you ask how many conflict resolution centers are there in America, there's not one. I don't know of one in the city of North, in the city of East, a conflict resolution center, a place that our people who have issues can go and settle their disputes, where everybody walk away with their integrity intact and with their lives intact. So again, I think that it's an imperative fight that we need to engage in, showing our people how to disagree and have conflict, but where it's not detrimental, where whole communities are being destroyed. So I think that's an imperative fight, brother John.
I was going to ask, when you were talking about a conflict resolution center and the peace agreement, can the group elaborate on that? Like, what is a conflict resolution center? Is that something in the making? Is that something that NORC is pushing? Is that something that the individual organizations are pushing? Like, is the nation pushing that? Are some of the religious-based organizations
all pushing that?
No. So what is it?
A safe place.
Well, let me say this. See, can I say this?
A safe place to work out your conflict. A safe place. I think with the social workers dealing with that's graduated, with the police officers, that's a step in the right direction, because they can come on the scene with experience and give it a safe place. And what the Hawk said was to be able to walk away with their life, not only their dignity, but with their life intact.
That's just one aspect, Ali, Pastor. The things that Minister Abdul Haq have been doing, and there's a lot of things, of course, we can't go into detail, of course, publicly, but the conflict resolution he's speaking of really, really, really desires him to be, or someone of faith, or some individual that's able to communicate with people that normally will have nothing to say to you about resolving nothing.
That's right.
It takes a certain individual. It takes trust, and you got to build that. You're just not going to walk up to someone who's got a conflict on any level and say, "I want to talk to you. Let's see, can we work this thing out?" It's a process, and then the information is not public information. So then you got to find the root of a thing, and if you don't kill the root of it, then that means it can still fester. It can still grow. You can, if you don't take care of a wound, it's not going to heal. You can put a Band-Aid on it temporarily, open it up, dirt get in it. You don't take care of it, it's not going to heal. So this conflict resolution piece, we could talk. Yeah, the center is after. We still trying to get to the point of just doing the conflict resolutions right now. And let me say this: Minister Abdul Haq didn't just come up with this idea out of this clear blue sky. Oh, I think I'll go. He's been actually working on this. He's called faith leaders out to come and assist, because people do feel a little safe having a conversation with some faith leaders, not all, because the truth is they have to look at you. They're looking at you, and if you haven't really been consistent, they don't really have much that they want to say to you.
That's right.
Right. And
that's right.
You see, Brother John, again, as a people, historically speaking, we have been destroyed totally. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad have taught us. So again, conflict resolution is just a step on the staircase to our transformation. It's not the Alpha and Omega, it's not the all in all, but it's a big part of our restoration as a people. Because again, when you look at the data and the statistics as it relates to quote unquote black on black killing, the numbers are dismal. Now, I would say that sometimes the media sensationalism of what we do to one another, it does create a lot of what they call geographical bias, where you see a city like Newark and the whole Newark is bad, the whole Chicago is bad, and that's not true. Again, statistically speaking, some social scientists did a study, and there's another study that had just been released by the Gifford Law Center, and it talks about how a lot of the violence that happens in these urban areas, they are really concentrated. It's not like the whole of Chicago is bad. It's not like the whole of Newark is
That's
bad.
right.
Again, they said that violence is only really segregated to about 20% of the city of Newark. But in my research, I've seen that in Chicago, many of these other areas, Houston, Los Angeles, those type of statistics, they are ubiquitous, meaning that a lot of the violence that happens in these urban areas, these areas that you see on the news, is not the whole city. It's concentrated to about, sometimes they say 10% of the city, 20% of the city, 30% of the city, but it's not the whole city in mass. And it's not like it's all of the population. Again, the statistics say that in North, about 62% of the crime was done by 4% of the population. So it is with these other areas that a majority of the crime is done between 3 to 10% of the population. So it's a certain segment of our people that have been neglected, that have been counted out, that the masses see them as being unredeemable, incorrigible. So we're trying to get to that segment, and the age gap or the age group is, I would say, 16 to 34. 16 to 34, 35. So when you see on the news, New York City, these mass busts or these mass arrests that the police departments are doing, most of these people that they're arresting are between the ages of 15 and 35. True. 17 years old, 18 years old, 23 years old. So we are missing that generation. So again, the peace agreement, we want all of our people, because all of our people have some type of conflict, but we are going after specifically that group that have been rejected and despised. We're going after them to let them know that we understand and we love you, and that us trying to implement or institute the Newark Peace Agreement is not cultural imperialism. We're not trying to superimpose our values on what you think is important.
That's
but
right.
Can we bargain?
That's
Can
right.
we say, okay, where can we come in the middle? I understand you have beef, you have issue, and your beefs and your issues are very real. And I think sometimes as grassroots organizations and faith leaders, I think not intentionally, but in our own ignorance, a lot of times we act as if what our people are engaged in, there's no reality to it because it's not our reality. But that conflict, those beefs, is very real to them. And even though we may not be living that life, they're living that life. So our first approach is to be empathetic and to understand, not to condescend and not to judge. Although we don't agree with the life that they're living and what they're doing, we do have to understand that if the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. The guilty one is not he who commits the sin, but he who creates the darkness. So many of our youth who are engaging in this lifestyle, again, it's transgenerational. It was passed down. You understand? So we do have to be empathetic and have an unconditional positive regard when we are dealing with that segment of our people. I got so much more else to say on that, Brother John, but I don't want to turn this into a soliloquy. But in terms of that conflict resolution center, because it's what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan asked about several years ago, that we get 10,000 fearless men to go out into our community and stand in between these beefs as best we could. And I don't think that we adhered or really understood at that time what he was saying. But now we can see why it is imperative. We need a group of men, strong men and women who are not afraid to stand up and call our people to a table and say, how can we resolve these issues?
Yeah.
What can we do to settle these disputes that are killing innocent people, innocent grandmothers? I just seen an incident that happened, Reverend Roundtree. I don't know if you've seen it, Brother Zaid, Brother Ed, over there on Jelliff. A 60-year-old woman was sitting on a porch and gunfire broke out, and she lost her finger. I think this happened maybe 2 days ago. And unfortunately, many of the conflict that happened, the people that died are innocent bystanders. And I would never normalize our children, 4 and 5 and 6, being shot because of a conflict that had nothing to do with them.
That's right.
So it is in my spirit and my heart, based on what my teacher have given me, we got to do something.
That's right.
We have to do something. We can't sit back idly while our communities are under siege with the ignorance that is under and claim to be representatives of God.
Let me do it this way. Let me jump in this way, because I want us to appreciate this also. Right on. Right? And I want us to appreciate this way. And one of the things they do in the Muslim tradition coming out of the Nation of Islam is that we cook. So I'm going to use this culinary metaphor, right? We have been developing, we have been bringing to the table all of the ingredients, y'all with me, necessary to create this space that this young man is talking about. Now we have an actual structure that is just beginning to take shape, called the Office of Violence Prevention, that can at some point be that structure when we figure out, using all of the ingredients that we have at the table, right? All of the Newark Community Street Team, the mighty Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, the Brick City Collective, my sons and daughters, right, with this young man here in the Nation of Islam, right? All these players, right? You know, we don't have that number yet, but those of us who are out here make up those who are in that number, right. And then we dare say we're grateful to have some young voices emerging like Hawk to bring more young men and women out. You see, so we have the ingredients. There's no, you know, this 50% decline in violence in our city, that too didn't come out of the sky. That came from the mayor and his vision for us having a trauma-informed city, you know, bringing these ingredients together, right, to do what we've been doing. You know, we need to do more of that. We need more players, right? We need more ingredients, at the table. But we have it's in our hands. It's at our table. We have to stay on course of our commitment to try and make this thing happen, and continue to make this thing happen better. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
So it's a process. I mean, while we got all these ingredients, you can't just go to the kitchen and throw the chicken in the grease. You got to season it.
That's right.
And to Hawk's point, October is coming up. October marks the anniversary of the Million Man March, and the several days of atonement that were done. We need to lift it back up. It's there.
Okay, so
it ain't going nowhere. We can lift that up here.
That's good, that's all good. Mm-hmm. We can't skip the process.
Well, can I say this? I want to answer Reverend Brother John Austin.
Yeah.
Saying, and it's all in one scripture, Brother John, Matthew 18:15. I think it's 16 and 17. Pastor Ali, you can help me out. Where Jesus is saying, moreover, if your brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. It says, if he hear thee, you have gained thy brother. But if he will not hear you, take one or two more witnesses that this may be established. Then it says, if that don't work, go to the
bring
church.
Before the congregation.
Bring before the congregation.
Go before the people.
And the conflict resolution center really is every church, every mosque. Those are all conflict resolution centers. And that's kind of what the model we want it to be, because again, there's conflict all over the city. And sometimes based on who's going back and forth, somebody from the South Ward can't go to the West Ward. Or vice versa. Or man, that's too far. So we may need a neutral spot, maybe in the Central Ward. So that may be any number of churches that I'm good there, or any number of masjids.
That's right.
You understand that we say, okay, we're going to use this. And the reason is because it's very difficult to heal traumatized people in the same place that they have experienced their trauma.
That's right.
So one of the first components to healing is safety. So again, you got to have the proper venue, the proper space. You need all of the right elements in order to be able to begin to dialogue and create and start these conversations. You understand? Sometimes the street corner is not the best venue. You need a place with people who have the necessary tools and know the rules of engagement, set the ground rules. Look, this is what we're gonna do. This is how it's gonna go. You need that. You understand? So again, as I said, this is not the all and be all, because I know many about it. What about this? What about that? Conflict resolution is a step on the staircase to our transformation, because we need reparations. We need economic justice. I mean, we need it all as a people. You understand? But
absolutely. I know that
we get conflict. We got to learn, Brother John, how to resolve our issues without me having to kill you or you having to kill me.
Right.
That's excellent. We have less than 5 minutes left. I know that whenever I love the disciples, I think that these conversations are good, and I really like knowing what you're doing. And most people don't look at the importance of religion and faith as solutions to the things that we're talking about, and I appreciate that a lot. But and wrapping this up, I just want to give the three of you these final words to end out on, or announcements, anything you want to say.
Well, I'm just grateful for the continued prayers on my wife and myself. Pray for my family, my children, my grandchildren, because we have other storms and other health issues going on within the dynamics of my immediate family. So keep us lifted up. But on a bright note, I want to shout out my nephew, Greg Coles Jr., who's in Vegas, getting married today on his birthday. So I just want to shout that out.
Love matters. On his birthday.
Congratulations,
brother.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. And so in our 3 minutes left, what more to say in terms of ending on?
I want you, before Minister Abdul Haq closes out and talks about that North Peace Agreement and gives out that phone number. We will be doing a Day of Atonement. I'm trying to set it for the end of September, but let me just talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, I will be at Essex County College with some young students. They will be walking and praying throughout the community. It's going to start at Essex County College and end at NJIT, beginning at 11 a.m. At 5 p.m., we will start at 445 on Harding Terrace and Bergen Street with the North Interfaith Alliance. Both of these events are under the Mayor's Office of Clergy Affairs. And what's really exciting, I know we have a Community Love Fest coming up with the Central Ward Clergy Alliance on August 29th, which is Sunday, where we will have fun for the whole family, book bag giveaway, food beginning at 10:45. But what's really, really exciting is, for the first time ever, we talked about, and I'm looking for it because I know it's here somewhere, the first time ever, Peace Week. And it's going to begin on Monday. And I'm looking for the flyer, actually, because I don't want to give wrong information. There it is. First ever Peace Week. The City of Newark invites you to participate in our annual Peace Week beginning Monday, August 30th. It will be ending Sunday with a day of remembrance. We will be on Broad and Market for the 24 hours of peace. I believe that will be Friday and Saturday. Sunday will be a day of remembrance.
To it, right.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we hear you good.
Yes, we hear you well.
So this is the first time ever. Of course, the 24 Hours of Peace, Brick City Peace Collective, and Office of Violence Prevention, of course, under the leadership of our Honorable Raz J. Baraka, Mayor. All of those ingredients, all of those things you were talking about, Baba, it's all in the works. But while we're doing all of that, those boots on the ground,
be good.
Those boots on the ground with the process for Minister Abdul Haq Muhammad, out there with the brothers, working on the faith leaders, talking to these people. They got to see us out there.
Yes, I know. And we have less than a minute.
Go ahead, Minister.
All right, Minister Muhammad.
Well, thank you all for tuning in.
I want to thank my co-host Reverend Roundtree, Pastor Ali, for holding me down always. Thank you so much. But I just want to say this, Brother John, Brother Ed, Brother Zaid. The Bible says that a good name is better than gold.
Ooh, Proverbs 22:1.
That's right. And I think because of our lack of knowledge of self, that we have misdiagnosed and mischaracterized much of what we see going on in the quote unquote hood. So I'm asking our people that's listening right now on Facebook, Instagram, a question. Is it gangster or is it displaced aggression?
Ooh.
Is it gangster or is it displaced
My
aggression?
Lord.
Again, because our lack of knowledge of self, we have mischaracterized many disorders that we as a people are carrying, are affected by. And most of what we see, I'm saying to us, is not gangster, rather is displaced aggression. And what is displaced aggression? When you take out your anger on someone or something that is not the cause of your anger. So because we've been carrying the trauma and the pain and the wounds that we have been carrying, and we have not had the proper counseling, spiritual counsel or guidance, we carry we carry this frustration, which morphs into aggression, which ultimately becomes displaced. So when we engage with our brother and our brother engages with us, we take out that aggression on one another, even though we are not the real cause of why we are frustrated or why we angry. It just so happens that in our close proximity and our engagement with one another and our conflict, we take out that aggression on each other. So is it gangster or is it displaced aggression?
Well,
Well,
thank you for leaving us with that as well. And I think this might be a record for us ending kind of on time on this.
You was determined to make sure that happened.
But it's much appreciated. Like when the three of you get together, we all learn, and what we're learning today is when the three of you get together off broadcast, right? What you're doing in real life, what you're doing like out there in Newark, is so important for everybody, setting trends that probably will be followed by the rest of the country. So thank you so much for
Brother Jonathan.
Thank
Brother
you.
Jonathan, one more thing, and I'm gonna be quiet. We got to congratulate the 67 recruits that just graduated from the Newark Police Academy, along with those 10 social workers. One social worker will be given to 10 officers.
Yeah.
It's the first time in the history of the
that's
city
big.
of Newark that social workers. So I just had to put that out there.
All right, and we know that the training that they're getting is a little different than the training that they're getting in the rest of the country as well. So again, Newark is ahead on all this, right? Nationally,
breaking ground.
Right. People are looking at Newark for what it's doing. So I appreciate you. Appreciate the comments.
Thank you.
And can't wait to next month to have you back on the show again, and just to talk to you offline way before that too. All right.
Thank you, Brother Ed. Brother Josh.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much.
Co-host, love you,
Brother Ed,
Minister, Pastor.
Brother Zaid.
All right.
Peace.
Take care. And that's All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. We are getting ready to move into the second hour of All Politics Are Local, and we are bringing on Dr. Chris Pernell. It is an honor to have you on.
My pleasure.
Been following the very positive work that you've been doing for years, and in terms of public health, and ironically or not ironically, religion as well, and a combination of those. So thank you so much for being on. We're gonna also have, because I've got to let Zaid introduce you, right? We haven't had a proper introduction until Zaid introduces you. And he's also been singing your accolades, singing your praises for a while as well. So, Zaid.
Well, Sister Pernell, if you got about an hour, sit back and relax. Brother Zaid is about to give the introduction of the introduction.
Much respect. Much respect.
All right, Zaid, you're Come on, Zaid. We got to be able to hear this.
I'm sorry. I'm going to try and exercise something that I'm not known for, and that is restraint. But I want to just say this in my introduction of this young queen, is that have her right on after the disciples is so on point, right? Let me tell you how I met this young woman. We all know about it. We all seen her work and whatnot. Mm-hmm. We had that big reparations march and rally. We had an elder, get victimized by a heat takedown, right? And I'm scrounging, on post, looking for somebody that's medical personnel. Sister's right there, and I said, "Oh wow, daughter, good to have you," and whatnot. So we're on the battlefield. She comes in, takes care of the elder, then gets on the mic and tears the mic up. I said, "Oh, she ain't just a doctor. She got some. This child is a daughter of the church."
Dr. Minister.
That's right.
Dr.
That's
Minister.
right.
She tore it up. So it is. So this is disciple number 5 here.
Right? That's where I'm putting it with her.
Is not only a people's doctor in the sense that she absolutely understands the critical importance of what it means to be a medical doctor with this kind of skill and proficiency in a context of combating public health crises, right? And I'm saying that in the plural. I ain't just talking about COVID. I'm talking about gun violence. I'm talking about all this mess that's coming at us that we've been facing, right? But she is also a daughter of our community at the well from which the goodness of our community comes from, and that is our faith center. She's a daughter of the church and brings science and faith together, right? Mm-hmm. White folks say you can't do that because they have their own problems, unfortunately, right? But we're not going to get with that. We're going to get with how we do things because we know we are the ones that we've been waiting for. So we have been waiting for a minute to have this blazing young sister come share with us an important update on this whole new challenge that we're facing with COVID, but in a way that makes sense for our community to appreciate it. So, daughter, welcome to All Politics and Local.
Wow. I'm blessed to be here. I'm eager to have this conversation and this dialogue. I always tell people what I do is heart work, HEART work. And that work is very much rooted in the family and the household that I was reared in. So it is an honor to be on with all of you tonight. I know you, I admire you. We have mutual peers, colleagues, family, mutual sojourners. And so I'm just really blessed to be here and hope to share as much of me as I can in the brief time that we have.
Thank you.
Really beautiful.
Zaid, I'll have you at the first question. And your mic is off. I do the same thing all the time.
My bad. I can't wait till we get back into real space and real time.
Absolutely.
Right.
We're working on it.
But here we are, though. Here we are. We're a minute away. Well, some schools that have actually opened. Yes. We're actually at the crossroads of school reopening after a school year. And our schools, the schools are really at the crossroads.
Definitely.
Of where this whole thing is happening, right? Because with this new variant is finding home, right? It's lighting a fire in that segment of the population that had not been hit as hard as that first wave of COVID. That first wave of COVID beat up old crazy people like me and took killers like some of my comrades out of here, right? But this thing now is coming at young people, right? And young people are not just being hit with it, but are also being carriers of it, right? In ways that makes this, as dangerous, if not more dangerous than it has been. So what kind of good Black sense do we need to make out of this historical moment with this Delta variant of COVID-19 right now that we all need to be clear about and mature about and careful about? I just add a big open question that we can.
No, definitely. Very, very good opening question. So, I think I have to start and center from a conversation I was having last night. And you can imagine, I talk to people all over the country. And I talk to people right here in our community frequently about this topic. And so last night I was talking to 1199 SCIU home care workers, right? Who really are the backbone of a health system and work with the most marginalized groups within health and healthcare. And I was talking to them about the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, and about the urgency to get vaccinated and the urgency to be safe. And it's not through an individual lens. And I start there because when we think about our babies, when we think about our young scholars, when we think about our future, when we think about our children, what I need our community to understand, and I believe we understand this because of who we are socially and culturally, that our individual actions really are collective actions. The choices that I make, the choices that you make, the choices that those who are listening tonight, we are interrelated, we are interdependent. And so what you see now, you see coronavirus is seeking a host. You see the pandemic seeking the most susceptible person. And oftentimes right now, the most susceptible persons are the youth because they are not vaccinated. And so you see a meteoric rise in pediatric COVID cases. And so in order to protect the most susceptible and the most vulnerable among us, we really need to think about this pandemic through collective behaviors, through collective action. And I can't impress that enough. And so the way for us to think about how do we keep our babies safe, how do we keep our children safe, is how do we keep our households and our families safe. Look, I have dear nieces that I call my boo-bots, live right here in Newark. And the youngest one can't get vaccinated because she's only 10. And she wrote a letter. She wrote a letter to the world. And in her letter to the world, I wish I had it and I could read it right now. She talks about—
I wish you had it too. I was already
yes,
got it. Yes.
She needs others in the world to do their part so that she can be safe. Others in the world to do their part so that she can be whole. And so I really want to press upon our mothers, our fathers, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our aunties, our uncles, our cousins, our, village, that the way for us all to get over this latest battle, this latest warfare, is for us to think in collective action. We have to.
Well, what about the inside of our community? There are a lot of people who have legitimate fears of getting vaccinated based on the history of like medicine and Black people, right? Like that it's widely known how Black people have been very specifically hurt by the medical establishment in the United States. How does that? And how do you speak to people who just do not trust what the medical establishment is saying?
Okay, because we have power. I think one of the greatest crimes against community is for community to believe it does not have power. We have power, and because of our history, we must be cognizant of how we wield our power, how we wield our community power. Look, I am a Black woman. I am a Black woman physician. I am a Black daughter. And I just was having this conversation today. I know personally how racism has stained the American healthcare experience, because racism is a system. It is a system and a tool of oppression. Right? And racism has impacted every facet and aspect of American life. And so health and healthcare is no different. I had to fight and advocate for my parents. Just to tell you a quick story, things you never forget. My mom died of Parkinson's. My mother, who was a Blessed woman, came to Newark in the late 50s from Clarksville, Virginia. Newark received her. And my mom had a PhD in love. And I saw doctors treat my mother in a very dehumanized way because they had a certain assumption about her as a person and then a certain assumption about her daughter until they met me, right? Until I showed up in the fullness of my presence. So I know how racist the American healthcare system has been. And knowing how racist the American healthcare system has been, it is necessary. It is an imperative for Black and brown communities to wield their power, to force accountability, to force the system's hand. And so we cannot come from a ahistorical perspective, to speak in the language of Dr. Cameron Jones, public health truth teller and sojourner. We cannot come from a cultural or an ignorant perspective and know that because too often science has been a tool of white supremacy, that we have to check those systems. And the way that we check those systems to say, what is in the best interest of me? What is in the best interest of my family? What is in the best interest of my community? And knowing full well how healthcare and public health has fallen short, we need to interrogate the process. And that's why it was so important for me to participate in a coronavirus vaccine trial. I lost my father to this pandemic. My father who reared me in Black excellence. My father who reared me in a love of science. My father who demanded that I knew who I was as a person, a woman. And I lost him. My father overcame the Jim Crow South, but coronavirus took his life. My father was overcoming chronic HIV/AIDS, but coronavirus took his life. I saw university hospital beds filled with Black and brown patients. I could look across the nation and I could see how we were being devastated, disproportionately devastated, earthquakes of devastation. So I felt a need to volunteer for this trial so that I could have not only a scientific perspective, I could have an inside perspective to ensure that things were being done and held to the highest ethical standards, okay? And at this point in our history right now, we have credible Black excellence, Black intelligence, Black and brown excellence, Black and brown intelligence that has been at the decision-making points of so much in this pandemic. I mean, Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett, the physicians who have been a part of independent panels that the FDA has relied on, career FDA scientists, physicians like myself, public health leaders, the NMA, the National Medical Association, the presidents of Black colleges and Black medical schools. We have collectively stood up. We have collectively stood up to interrogate the process because
and that's something that I'd like you to elaborate on, in that this is like the first time I've ever heard it said the way you're saying it right now. You're saying that it's not just there's one Black doctor who helped come up with Moderna. You're saying that there's an entire network of Black people.
There is an entire power structure that is exerting its influence and its power to ensure that the process is safe and ethical.
So you're saying that basically, as a product of our history, we already have lots of Black institutions. Because the reason why I'm clarifying this is because we've had this discussion a lot. And one thing that comes up is people say we don't have Black institutions. Black institutions aren't involved in this. So I want you to clarify, and we're going to put this on you again, because I think it's really important to emphasize what you just said.
We have been a part of this process. We have been intimately engaged in this process at multiple levels because we have demanded it. We have demanded it. You have, whether it's Meharry, whether it's Morehouse, whether it's Howard, volunteering to be sites. And what it means to be a site of a clinical trial, it means that you can interrogate and ensure that certain processes are being upheld. You can understand that the science is allowed to be the science without the influence of either a willful ignorance or devaluing of Black and brown life, or an unconscious ignorance about Black and brown life. So whether it is, Black physician scientists or scientists being co-principal investigators alongside the clinical trial process, or whether it has been Black organizations, the National Medical Association saying, I want to see the data, whether it has been presidents of Black colleges, whether it has been Black physicians like myself who said, I want to participate in the trial, whether it has been career scientists at the FDA, who are Black physicians on the CDC's advisory panel that not only looks at the data after the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has combed through it, but then it's been a part of the process to say what are the guidelines around who we recommend gets inoculated or vaccinated and where priority is. I'm telling you that there is a credible contingency of power that is demanding power to act in a more responsible and accountable way because of our history. And that, I don't think, has been properly communicated to our community. Look, when my dad died, my father was not open about the fact that he had HIV/AIDS, right? Because he did not want the stigma of that condition to dehumanize him and devalue him in very white and very privileged spaces. Okay, my father never went to college, but my father started at Bell Labs cutting grass. My father went from cutting
Tell the story. Come on.
My father went from cutting grass at the famous Bell Labs in Murray Hill, New Jersey, to being a member of technical staff. And you have got to understand that is reserved for master's level and many PhD scientists. My father was at the cutting edge of crystallography, of lasers. My father helped build the math that allows you to have Easy Pass. Neither of these two black men went to college, but they were self-educated. And through opportunity at the lab, my father was a part of ABLE, right? The Association of Black Laboratory Scientists and Engineers. So my father was not just about ensuring that his excellence, his intelligence had a vehicle, had an avenue to produce outcome, but to ensure collectively that communities that have been blocked out of opportunity had opportunity. So that's the man that raised me. And when he died to this pandemic, I could only think, what better way to honor him than to exercise that level of advocacy, to exercise that level of power, to say, I'm in covenant with my community. I'm in covenant with my community. I thought I was going to be a brain surgeon. And I thought I was going to be the next Ben Carson until I met him. And then I met Ben Carson before he became a political character. And when I met him, he said some straightforward sexist things. And he wanted to know what was with these women wanting to be surgeons. And, in my way, I checked him. And through my maturing, through my development, I realized that the best way for me to be able to take care of my community and to take care of people was to become a public health physician. So I internalized all of that through this pandemic to say, what role can I play? And I'm just giving you an example of me, because this is what has been happening across the field. I can point to colleagues, right? We are making sure that the story is not being told without us.
This is probably one of the most important stories of the entire pandemic when it comes to Black people, because you are the first person, and it's so glad we have you as interviewing you, because you're the very first person who's telling it from that perspective of a Black medical insider who really has an understanding of us within the scope of our history.
Look, when my mother once got sent to the hospital, she was sick. She had fallen out of a wheelchair. So as my mother's Parkinson progressed, she was physically incapacitated. And so when I got that phone call that she had fallen, I was like, how does my mom fall out of a wheelchair? She can't really move that well. So, end of the story, she goes to a hospital. A physician walks in her room, never examines her, only lays eyes on her and says to the nurse, stop what you're doing. Don't hang an IV. Don't draw any blood, because she's going back to the facility that she came from. There's nothing wrong with her. Without ever examining her. So when you have
residual legacy of medical apartheid.
When you have those type of experiences, and so many of us Black professionals, Black physicians in this space, we have lived those experiences. And so as we saw this, look, the pandemic will always be worse. Systems of oppression are devastating people. Right? Because there are less checks and balances and there are less resources. So as this pandemic started to rage, those of us who work in equity could easily have predicted that the worst outcomes were going to be in Black and brown and marginalized groups. Right? And so this was an opportunity for us to say, we're not just going to be devastated by this pandemic, we're going to fight back. And this is how we fight back. And so I definitely understand the distrust. I understand, if the health system has communicated to you, has shouted to you, has screamed to you that your life is not as valued, not just that it matters, but your life is not valued, it is hard for you to understand why a particular action takes your best interests at heart. And so I've spent considerable time helping people to decipher and translate what's happening in this pandemic to make sure that you aren't killed doubly. Right? The pandemic is killing lives and racism is killing lives. And so the legacy of racism has very much colored, and I use that word intentionally, how Black folks seek care. because you've been burned by the stove so many times, you're going to stop touching it.
So to make the argument, just making it plain to people who have not been vaccinated yet. And so the first one would be to people who are 16 and older. Why should you get vaccinated? So, but just make that argument. Why should you get vaccinated right now? And then the second one I'm going to ask you, I'm going to start asking you about kids going back to school. So first, why should people be vaccinated?
Why should you get vaccinated? Because there's at least one person that I'm always having a conversation with and engaging who really hasn't made the choice just to get vaccinated. Why should you get vaccinated? Because if you want to have a fighting chance to not just survive through this crisis, but to enable and to ensure that those who you love survive and thrive through this crisis, we need whole households to be vaccinated. So as one person gets vaccinated, you then become a validator. You become a validator for someone else who's not quite sure that this is an action that they can trust to take. Like, for instance, for me, my family will tell you, my brother will tell you, he said, I know I got vaccinated because daddy died and because you were on the front lines telling people to get vaccinated. Because I know you personally and I trust you. And I know you're not going to advocate for community to do something that's going to harm them, especially because you've experienced racism and you know how racism has stolen lives. So I'm just giving you my family story, but that's what happens in households. So if you as an individual, in order to exercise and exert your greatest power, is to make sure you get to safe or high ground, because by you getting to safe and high ground, it's going to influence someone else in your circle to get to safe and high ground. The Delta variant is nasty. The technical way that the CDC will say it is a variant of concern. The Delta variant is destroying lives, and it's destroying lives in a way that is sneaky. It's sneaky because people believe that we've gotten through the worst of the pandemic. No, the virus just continues to morph, so that every time we assemble a defense or even an offense against it, the virus wants to say, how do I stay alive? So the virus is looking for available hosts, available persons.
Although I think you might have frozen. Is it just me, or was there a freezing?
Frozen. She was rolling too.
No,
absolutely.
No, Principal Kafeli said this is a powerful interview. He's giving her a shout out, but she was rolling, and this is groundbreaking, good stuff. Let's bring her back in as soon as we can,
right?
Because this is really, really good stuff. The way she
just
text
her to let her know that she went out, because I think that we can bring her back as well. Sometimes it's a matter of just leaving and coming back.
This is a conspiracy, John. It happened to Ali, now it's happening to her.
The information that she was giving was probably the first time I've heard that information in that way. I have never heard it being presented so thoroughly. Especially when it comes to what people are like, the institutions that have already been in place. It's kind of like, yes, you are back.
There you go.
I realized, I was like, wait a minute.
Like
and you were on a roll too. You were on a roll.
Mighty stream, daughter, we got you.
No, but basically, I'm just about to say this last point, and so we can talk about kids. You got to get to safe and high ground. So each individual person, your job is to get to safe and high ground. And unfortunately, I have people who are still standing at the bottom of the hill saying, oh, I'm just going to be healthy. I'm just going to do what's in, I think it's to keep me safe. But safe and high ground is taking advantage of and using every tool at your disposal. If you're not getting vaccinated, you're not on high ground. So you're susceptible. And if you are susceptible, your entire household is susceptible.
And so, well, Zai, do you have anything to add to this before we ask?
I know Ed was chomping at the bit to get us some. I wanted Ed to jump on in here.
All right, so
go ahead, John.
No, Ed, you were saying.
So two things. First off, Dr. Pernell, I got to talk about your outfit, the background. I mean, what is all of this, man?
Artist Steve Greene, let me give him his props. That was painted by Newark artist Steve Greene. You can see his work all across the city. So Steve Greene, go ahead.
Okay.
And so you put your outfit together and everything coordinated and all of that.
I was intentional about having to think that.
No, because my wife seems to coordinate her mask and all of that, her outfits and all of that. I'm just saying, is that a sister thing, or what is that about with y'all? You know what I
Whatever
mean?
makes you happy, you gotta do.
Okay, y'all make it all work. Well, I think that the thing that I wanted to get to was, as I mean, we have some sort of hesitation and issues with even coming to the table to get 1 shot, 2 shots, and now they're talking about a booster, right? And so how do we even convince people, and even myself, right? To go back and get a booster. I mean, I had such hesitation to go and get the 2 shots from Moderna.
Let's
and so if you could just help us with that.
So, for instance, I enrolled in the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine trial. I got my first shot on August 31st a year ago. I got my second shot on October 2nd. And so I am close to being, a year post-vaccination. What the data has shown us, right? I want everyone to be very clear on this. Whether you had Moderna, whether you had Pfizer, or whether you had Johnson & Johnson, all 3 of those vaccines are very, very good at preventing and protecting you against severe disease. What's severe disease? You getting so sick that you have to be hospitalized, you getting so sick that you have to be in the ICU, you getting so sick that you would need a ventilator or a breathing tube down your throat, or you getting so sick that you would lose your life. Okay, all 3 of those vaccines are very good at that. Where you see the different levels of effectiveness is how good are they at preventing any infection. So any just mild disease or even moderate disease. What the data is now showing is that in certain groups, their immunity is waning. So their immune system is not as strong as it was initially in that post-vaccination period. It starts to get weaker, and it gets weaker approximately 8 months out. And the people whose immune systems weaken are those who have certain vulnerabilities, right? So in particular, the older population, in particular, those who live in nursing homes, and in particular, those who bear a disproportionate risk of exposure because of their occupation. So healthcare workers, as an example. So we do know that at some point in 8 months is what the data has showed us in the latest data that's been publicized. Yes, we're going to all need boosters, those 3 groups. Now, more broadly in the population, the same edict holds true. You're going to be protected against severe disease. You probably don't have the same vulnerabilities as the older community, those living in nursing homes. Nursing homes are risky because it's considered congregate living, but prisons are also congregate living. So that's just as risky. Nursing homes, and then healthcare workers because of the risk of exposure by their job. So outside of that group, yes, ultimately the general population, you may need to consider a booster. That's how most vaccines work. Your immune system has to be primed a couple of times. But the urgency, the priority is on the 3 groups that I spoke about within 8 months. The CDC has yet to give us guidelines or recommendation on who should get vaccinated first. But I'm telling you, it's going to be those groups most likely. And then more broadly in the population. So if people don't immediately run out and get a booster outside of those 3 groups, it's not as pressing an issue as it is getting those 3 groups as protected as possible so they don't succumb to severe disease. Now, the other group that I haven't described are those who are immunocompromised, okay? Immunocompromised persons, and what the research actually showed is those who had solid organ transplants, so like a kidney, a liver, those who had solid organ transplants, and those who had certain blood cancers. Their immune system never responded to the first 2 doses or the first dose like someone else's immune system did. So they're really walking around with less protection. That's why getting them immediate access to a booster was necessary. So that's how I want people to think about the boosters in those 2 categories that I just described.
All right, again.
And let me just ask a follow-up, John. And beyond the booster, Is this going to be something that is going to be like the flu shot, where every year folks are going to need to get a vaccination?
I have suspicions, but no one has definitive, conclusive evidence yet. So I want people to understand that when you have immunity against a disease or an immunity against an infection, there are different types of immunity. You have B cells that produce antibodies. You have B cells that are memory cells, so your body can remember the exposure and how to fight it. And then you have T cells, right? So there are different types of immunity. So the inoculation will cause different levels of robustness in the various types of immunity on different timetables. So what I'm waiting on is the most conclusive data. Even being in the trial, I'm blinded to the most conclusive data. And so once that data is made available, we will be able to give very specific recommendations on how often you need to be vaccinated. It could be that to be most effective, especially against variants like Delta, you need 3 shots and then you don't need another. Or you need 3 shots and you need another in a year. No one knows the answer to that. But I'm going to tell you the best known evidence at the time. And the best known evidence at the time is if you are not vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you are already vaccinated and you are immunocompromised, get a 3rd dose. If you are already vaccinated and you're elderly, you live in a nursing home, or you carry a certain occupational risk or occupational hazard because of exposure, within 8 months of your last shot, you probably should get a 3rd.
So I've got that, right? Mm-hmm. But now let me ask you a question from down on the ground from a Black perspective, right? So I get that, right? So now I get comfortable with receiving these shots, right? Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden, if you want to do something to a people who have been marginalized historically and who have been degraded on every level, once we get comfortable to receiving these shots, because our people now have done such a thorough job convincing us that, this is what's going to help keep us alive. What is to stop the evil forces from evil scientists who might want to hurt us, began to inject something into our body, because now all of a sudden we all are comfortable with receiving that? And I'm saying historically, we know just some of those stories you just told, right? About how your parents were treated and all of that. Right. And you know that after a while, if people want to hurt you, right? When you get lax, when you're no longer paying attention, right? I mean, this is what all religious leaders tell you, is that always be conscious of the devil, right? Why? Right. Because he's always lurking, he's always present, right? So how do we protect against that?
Very good question, but I want to challenge you. The system is trying to kill you by other ways than putting something in a shot.
That's right.
There are food deserts, food swamps. There is less access to clean air, clean spaces, lack of access to quality education, less economic opportunity and economic mobility. I want our community to understand that racism is a system of structuring opportunity, and whereby one group is disadvantaged and another group is advantaged, but the strength of the society as a whole is sapped. That's a definition that Dr. Cameron Jones articulated and many others in the field. So it's not that because you go and do a behavior that is scientifically grounded, meaning getting vaccinated, that suddenly you're going to be in a susceptible position for the system to take advantage of you. The system is already taking advantage of marginalized people.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
So it's like we are not up in arms around the proliferation of McDonald's and Burger Kings and Checkers in our communities. With the level of acuity, the up in arms of, my brother was just talking about displaced aggression, community violence, like the myth of Black on Black crime, right? That's a myth. But you know how many Black people believe in the myth of Black on Black crime? People hurt and harm those who are in most proximity to them.
So
all people do that, right? So it's not that you need to be hyper vigilant about that. Now that I've taken the coronavirus vaccine, I'm going to be weaker and more susceptible to the medical system taking advantage of me. We have to continue to exert the pressure on the system of healthcare to undo medical apartheid. We must continue to exert the pressure on the system of health and healthcare so that we emphasize prevention. The one thing that people don't quite understand when they're having this conversation with me, you're having a conversation with a preventive medicine physician. So I believe in prevention. I believe in healthy living. I believe in healthy eating. I believe in physical activity. I believe in, the ability to remediate and manage and alleviate stress, because I know how toxic stress is, how toxic racism and systems of oppression are. So yes, we have to still demand accountability and exert pressure on all of those things, but Black people are gifted. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can hold the system accountable for the social determinants of health and the upstream factors that are robbing and snatching our lives, as well as interrogating and deciphering and translating the science and knowing that vaccinated is in our best interest. We can do
facts. Facts, absolute facts. But let me ask you this question, and this may be a difficult question for you to ask. I don't know, but you're brilliant, right? But in all truth, do you think any of that would fly with Minister Farrakhan, who absolutely have told Black people not to receive any of those shots? Everything you just said. No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that we just had a. You just heard one of his representatives a moment ago.
Had this conversation with Farrakhan.
Right, we just had one of his representatives, right? And what we're saying is that all of those videos on YouTube, you can see them all, where he's giving his argument and where he's telling us specifically not to receive. And he asked a pointed question: at what point in America did Black folk get to where they believe that they can absolutely trust white people in the medical profession? When did we get to that? When did we get to that point? No, I'm just asking that question. Yes.
Can I answer? I love
this.
Yes,
absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Let me go back to my father. Okay, my father, who stood on Brazos and spoke to Malcolm X face to face, who was a part of the civil rights struggle, whose father raised him to be very intellectually aggressive against the system. My father only lived the years that he lived because of the advances in medical science. HIV/AIDS was ravishing his body. My father progressed to AIDS. My father had the wasting. My father was a man who willed himself, prayed himself, and intellectualized himself across many finish lines. And he would proudly say, and he always said to me, when I'm dead and gone, please use the example, because he didn't think a pandemic was coming to take his life. Please use the example of my life so that our people can understand that it is not science itself that is evil or manipulative. It is the fact that white supremacy has used or co-opted science to be a tool of white supremacist ideology. But science, science in the hands of the just.
Absolutely.
Come on.
And my father used to track his T cells. He used to plot them and to go into the meetings with his infectious disease doctor. My father didn't just believe in the medical science, but he was also getting herbs. And this is before he was truthful with us and telling us what was going on. But you look at this at the same time I was going into medical school, and I was like, something's not adding up. And so it took my father almost 10 years to have an open conversation with us about what he was struggling with. So he was doing everything in his power, everything that got that Black man from cutting grass to inside of the lab to being a part of the labs that came up with three-way calling, caller ID, and call waiting. All of that research and investigation he was doing on himself to say, how do I further increase life? So science in the hands of the just is a powerful tool. So we as a community that has been terrorized, we as a community that has been brutalized, we as a community that has been marginalized, need to exercise and wield our power in every aspect and facet of American life, across every sector. So it is not that we should shun science. It is that we should understand and conquer science the same way we understand and conquer every other field.
So it's about whose hands it's in.
Oh,
right?
definitely. It's about whose hands is in. It's about who's exerting accountability. It's about who's demanding. It's about who's proliferating. It's about sharing power, right? Institutions have a very challenging time of sharing power. Institutions don't share power well, especially with stigmatized, historically excluded, and marginalized groups, because they are in the habit of having the upper hand. But the more communities understand their collective power, and the more communities understand how to manipulate systems, and I use that word intentionally, meaning how to cause systems to bow. What are the pain points? The pain points in systems are the opportunities. I will never forget the day I sat in a room at Hopkins and Congressman Elijah Cummings spoke and had that entire room in tears. He talked about pain, purpose, and passion. He talked about fighting for the ACA because he was fighting as a Black man who saw his parents and his grandparents not even be considered equal to be treated by physicians and to have their health conditions properly cared for. He carried that pain in his body and his psyche, and he sought ways for that pain to become a passion and for that passion to be fueled into policy purpose. We can do that. That genius is in us. We can't exclude ourselves. We got to get ourselves involved. And sometimes you got to redesign the system from the inside. Look, I'm a physician. I am a, allopathic physician trained in traditional clinical medicine. But as you all have said, I also am a believer. It doesn't negate one or the other. As my brother said so eloquently tonight, in our community, in our culture, we know that there is no conflict between the two. We understand that the true power is in harnessing both.
And to, I think also you answered this question before when you were like, there are so many Black professionals who are in positions of power, who are exerting themselves, who are actual scientists. And maybe to answer your question directly, like I could say, just speaking for myself, hey, I don't agree with Farrakhan on everything. There's an area I really disagree with him on. I think he's wrong. I think science goes against him. I think that when you're talking, and I think that the argument, the one that you made, Dr. Pernell, that I thought was most compelling is, and that was really an unheard argument before, is there are so many Black professionals who are coming of age in institutions that are exerting their power because the playbook has been written. We knew what was happening. We knew this would happen to our community more than we knew that our community was going to be hurt more than others. These are people who've been trained with that in mind, with an understanding of a mind, and now they're in positions of relative power where they can make some difference in this instance and hopefully in others.
Definitely.
I just want to say this too, and I don't want us to belabor Minister Farrakhan because he's not here. We were taught coming from out of that school that you're gonna talk about somebody, you're gonna talk to them.
Right. I agree.
But interestingly, one of his greatest moments, in my modest judgment, of his life is how he survived prostate cancer.
Yes.
Something that also has a particular way of finding hosts in the Black community in a disproportionate way, and how he became such an advocate for prevention and intervention with that. But when it comes to this one, he flipped and went in a totally different direction. I totally don't understand it, right? And then I'm grateful, right? And that not only do we have Dr. Pernells amongst us who are not just sincere experts in the process, but so sincere that they step forward and actually put themselves on the line with their own temples to do this, right? That's important. But the question I wanted to lift up is that you telling this story about the layers of our Black professionals in this process, we're not seeing that story told. And I'm grateful that you are in this space right now, providing a vehicle for the story to be told, right? And the writer in me is like, how do we get this down? How many other folks do we need to be talking to really bring this out and upgrade the health consciousness of our community in the process?
Bingo. You've said it. If we don't amplify our voices and our stories, listen, I'm not looking for someone to give me an opportunity to tell my story. I'm going to tell my story.
Right.
I'm going to bang on multiple doors. And you all have seen me doing that. And the story is getting out there. And the story is being told in ways and to audiences that previously would not have heard. Because I recognize the legacy my father and my parents have gifted me with. My father, it's as if Yahweh thought the most divine intervention would be for my father to die during a pandemic, knowing that he would give me that baton and I would run like crazy.
That's right, baby. That's right.
And I have had people question, why are you using your voice so much? Why not?
Exactly.
If our people are being destroyed and decimated, why not?
One of the first things they took from us and our ancestors is our tongues, is our voices.
That's right.
No, yeah, we got this. We got to use our voices.
We have to use our voices, and I agree with you. And it's not just Dr. Kizimikia Corbett. I do want people to know about, because the sister is brilliant, okay? And I want people to understand that the fruit of that brilliance didn't just specifically lead to Moderna. The understanding of how to use mRNA science and the understanding of that genetic recipe, because it's basically what it is, really has been implicated in all three of the vaccines that are currently authorized by the FDA and the one that is approved, fully approved by the FDA. In the prospects for what can be, the prospects for what can become. I'm telling you, it is provoking. It is provoking the excellence of a generation, and that our exploits are not just in technical fields. Come on, I believe we're in a renaissance. I believe, truly believe we are in a renaissance. And in being in that renaissance, I welcome the table of dialogue. I welcome the table of dialogue, because that's what's going to get us in the position to align our forces and align our respective expertise so that we have the most comprehensive and collective change and transformation. I don't want progress. I've spoken about this before. Progress is a pendulum. I want transformation.
Right on. Right on.
And we have to seize this moment. We have to seize this moment. There is so much I could say, but if you just think about the genius of our people and the genius of our community and the arc of that through history and where we are right now and just how pregnant and poised this moment is, it is time for us to elevate our literacy around the conversation so that we can begin to design intentional interventions and strategies that will produce wholesale transformation. I don't want a piece. Progress is a piece. That's what it is. It's a piece. And so in order for us to get over this multiple pandemics. I've given so many talks, whether the National Library of Medicine, about collision of two pandemics, a fast pandemic and a slow pandemic, a fast pandemic being coronavirus, but a slow pandemic being systemic racism, right? There's a collision with the pandemic of mental health and behavioral health issues. There's a collision with the pandemic around obesity. There's so many pandemics.
It's funny when you finish speaking, I want to say amen.
I told you. Right.
Let me tell you this story. My mother, I think about her genius, right? My mother was a very beautiful woman, a very charismatic woman. My mother could walk into a room and like a magnet, you want to talk.
I saw your pictures of your mother.
She had that energy. My mother, like, I'm the baby of my family for almost 10 years. And my mother told my siblings, I'm going to make Chris into a public speaker. I'm like, okay. My mother prophesied into my life, right? My mother, who also had not gone to college, was like, I'm going to make Chris a public speaker. And oftentimes in my kitchen, when I thought my mom was just, being my mom and playing with me, she would say, Chris, I want you to tell me a story. And I want you to tell me how you would tell the story if other people in the room weren't listening. I want you to tell me how you would tell the story if there were people who disagreed with you. I want you to tell me how you would tell the story if it was the most important thing you had to say. And my mother would play those games with me.
She was your debate coach.
And it wasn't even just debate. It was the love of storytelling. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's a tradition in the Black community, like the power of storytelling.
And part of the way I teach debate is a form of storytelling. At the end of the day, every debate that you have, you're telling a story. You train kids. At the end of the day, no matter how many little arguments, no matter how fast they speak, at the end of the day, all they're doing is telling stories, because that's how we learn. That's how we communicate. I was gonna try to throw in the second part of the question. Kids, like parents are nervous. They got 12-year-olds, they got little kids, and they hear vaccines, they get nervous. Talk to us.
So I first go back to, I was doing a project in Newark, at this point, probably almost 10 years ago. 19 years ago. And we were looking at community health models and what's the best way to help people understand a topic that is fraught with historical, cultural, and social challenges. And this was around HPV. And so we were looking at community health workers being developed and identified within buildings or housing developments that they lived in, and attaching community health workers to nurses. And I give that example because the beauty of being able to have someone who is a credible messenger in community then attach themselves to someone with clinical public health or medical knowledge and say, how do we help people understand the specifics of it and the urgency of it? I saw played out in real time. And so I say that is very similar to what's happening here. Vaccines have been politicized. Vaccines have been hijacked because of medical malpractice, because of disingenuous science that got published. And as I said to the home care worker on the phone last night, what people don't realize among public health interventions and among medical interventions, vaccines are some of the safest things we've ever created or discovered. They're far safer and far more validated than a lot of the pills that people take.
And I think maybe that's an important distinction. And because when you're prescribed medicine, often you take it. When you're saying take this vaccine, everyone thinks
right. Because my brother had this conversation with a dear friend, and he was like, "You took chemotherapy, but you won't take the vaccine. Right. No chemotherapy is toxic." We know that. No one shies away from that. It is a limitation of the science right now. So we say we must give you something toxic to kill everything in your body in the hopes of also killing the cancer. And so I want to help parents understand the emotional, historical, cultural, and intellectual prisms and lenses that they understand vaccines through, so that then they can understand, okay, I think this because of these experiences. What has the data shown me? What is the science showing me? What is the best way and most informed and effective way to keep me safe and to keep my family safe? So right now, actually, I don't think many people realize that you are in a position where you're being offered an intervention that, if you aren't vaccinated, that 171 million people have taken ahead of you. That hasn't happened in recent history. You have more, this is no longer experimental. So when people say to me it's experimental, it's like, no, it stopped being experimental a while ago. Right. Data and evidence that we have, like, it was experimental when I did it. And I had to look at the bits and pieces of data that were available and think about the science behind it and saying, okay, that science makes sense. That's why I feel safe in doing this. But right now we have such a mountain of evidence, and not just here in the United States. We have a mountain of evidence globally. And so I want parents to understand that this particular vaccine actually is one of the more validated tools to come out in quite some time by the sheer number of people who provide real world data in addition to the clinical trial process. And the final thing I want to
But I was going to say that would be for adults, but for kids.
No, that's what I'm saying. Let me button that up, right? Because that's all for 12 and older, right? That's all for 12 and older. Right. But now if we think about the younger groups, so right now we the FDA told the pharmaceutical companies running the trials that they wanted a certain number of children enrolled at each different age bracket. So the way you test safety and efficacy in children is you think about the next, think about the developmental interval. So 5 to 11, right? Then 2 to 5, then less than 2. So 6 months to less than 2. So you think about that developmental process and how you have to be able to validate safety and efficacy. So the FDA told the pharmaceutical companies, we're going to require larger trials of you because the burden of proof has to be higher because of the age and because the person at baseline is quote unquote healthy. So we have more children participating in trials. So when this data gets published yet again, it's going to dwarf the data that other vaccines were released to the public off of. It's going to have a larger data pool because it is proliferating across the United States. And we are actually going to be in a safer position to make a decision. Where the challenge and the fight's going to be, Jonathan, I'm really going to tell you, is about whether or not we wait for primary approval from those younger age groups, or if the FDA decides that those younger age groups should have access to a vaccine under emergency use authorization.
And what does that mean, you just said, in terms of primary use?
So for instance, right now, through emergency use authorization, someone between the ages of 12 and 15 can get vaccinated. Under full approval, 16 and above. So basically saying, because this is a crisis and because how severe the crisis is, the benefit of taking a drug that has only gone through emergency use authorization is much higher than remaining susceptible to an infectious agent that carries a certain level of risk. Okay, so now that we have that body of evidence to say the benefit of taking a drug, an intervention that has only gone through a certain amount of the approval process is higher because of the risk of the infection. Now we're going to have to answer, is the benefit of taking an investigational drug higher than the risk of not having protection and being susceptible? And as Brother Muhammad stated, the evidence is changing in real time on us because the rate is sparking in children. So an argument is being made that is no longer a place to be conservative. There's no longer the place to be conservative and to say, if you want to be conservative, you could say, we'll wait for full approval for all age groups younger than 12. The real-time argument is being made, the risk to those younger than 12 is exponentially growing daily. Because the risk is exponentially growing daily, you must offer something to keep them safe.
Okay, so that is pretty much contingent on the data that we have.
In public health, we're like on pins and needles. Like, we're all eagerly awaiting this data. And I think as a community and as the public, we need to keep pressure on the FDA to do its job. I don't want to rush the FDA, but I don't want the FDA to make a calculation and a decision that I think should have more public input put into that conversation I just had with you. The benefit of having access to something while it's still in an emergency use authorization versus waiting for full approval. That's where the yin and the yang is going to lie for those under the age of 12.
So,
having said that, since Pfizer now has full approval,
only for 16 and above. Only for 16 and above.
Even in that particular age group, have we seen the numbers go up in terms of people being vaccinated?
You mean, have we seen an increase in the people who are going to get vaccinated in what, 12 to 15 or 16 and above? I'm not understanding what you're
16 and above, since it's been fully approved.
Yes, we are starting to see some conversion. I'm waiting for a full dump of the data, but if you look, like for instance, the CDC will show you how many people have been vaccinated to date, and then they will show you how many people have been vaccinated in the last 2 weeks. NBC released I saw Brother Hamm come on, so I'm not taking Brother Hamm's time, okay? I am not. Go ahead.
He's an advocate for he's an advocate for the shot, by the way. So
I know. the NBC just did a poll recently, and nobody's talking about it, but we should be talking about it, right? Because we have this narrative that we tell about Black folks that we're just hesitant and we don't trust, so we're not going to take the vaccine. NBC just did a poll. Yes, it's small. It was only 1,000 adults, but do you know who the highest vaccinated group was in the poll?
Black people.
Black people.
Black
people. Because we were in the wait and see category at larger numbers than anyone else, because history has taught us to demand accountability and to interrogate. So sometimes we demand accountability and interrogate longer, right? And so what I've sought to do as a physician is to help Black folks in particular with that calculus, to say, look, demand accountability and interrogate, but your interrogation, the longer it goes, you're getting in riskier territory. Because the variants are changing and the variants are becoming more aggressive.
I heard all that and appreciate your total conversation and contribution, but I'm waiting on the Dr. Pernell tests and results and all of that. I want you to go do all of that, sis. You know what I mean? Give it back to us, because I think it's about trusted voices, right? And you just said it. You know, most Black people are skeptical about, you know, those people who are giving those kind of reports, right? NBC, but if it's Dr. Pernell doing that and giving the test results, I think that the majority of our community would begin to trust that. It's difficult for some folks in our community. I'm not saying all of our community. It's difficult for some folks in our community, and Larry know this point of fact because he's on the ground. Very difficult for some folks to get to that. It took me quite a while to get to it. My brother John had to bring, you know, on the doctor who runs Dr.
Elmer from
Dr. Elmer.
Like,
and then had to bring Mitty Baraka on, who told me I was going to the gym and playing Russian roulette with my life, right? And so it took that. And I'm just saying that all of this science, and when you say all this evidence is now, if we're really going to help our people, we need your voice. And I appreciate your voice tonight, my sister.
I appreciate you.
Ed, to Ed, I want you to lift this up though too. As we get ready for the 50th anniversary of the Gary Convention, I want to internationalize and Pan-Africanize.
Yes, you know, I'm talking to a state senator in Indiana around
right
that
on.
date.
That's right.
Yeah, so
and that's with this thing that we need to figure out how to include in that reconvening.
It's done. I think it's done.
Yeah, no, but the need for us to create as an African people, based on our own capacity, to come up with our own notion of a medical infrastructure that is international in its dimensions, so we can help our folks who are not getting the access that they need in other places, the stuff that we have access to by virtue of us being here, right? I just want to just throw that and put that in the atmosphere. And we got to wind up and give our daughter the ultimate question of the day. You gonna give it to her, Jonathan?
Oh, yes. Well, yes. So again, thank you so much for being here tonight. We are definitely going to have to bring you on because there's so much more that we want to discuss, especially in terms of the bombshell that you dropped on us in terms of the medical professional establishment that is already doing stuff. So we definitely want to have you back on for that. But the question that we ask for everyone is, who is your favorite hip hop artist, individual or group?
Wait, what's the last part? The favorite
individual or group.
So okay, I was born in 75. Right, so this changed for me across time. I was a Big Daddy Kane fan, then I became a Nas fan. Jay-Z is all right, but I was more big into Jay-Z. I can appreciate a Coogee rap. I can appreciate
rap. DJ
Rhino would approve.
I can appreciate a Coogee rap. I love Lauryn Hill. I think her brilliance was only shared with the world for a limited amount of time, and I always hope for that brilliance to be declared. So that's fluid, that changes for me. I can't find just one person, so I had to just give you that little bit of taste. But I love hip hop.
That's okay. That's good. That's great. That's great. So thank you so much. We will definitely have you back. Please come back. Come back. We need you back. We need you back.
Most certainly.
In touch with you. I'm gonna be down with
I want my family.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you, daughter.
All right, so this was a great conversation, and thank you, Chairman Hamm, for your patience and coming on again. Like we always appreciate.
She could have all my time. She's great. I can come on another day. She can have all my time.
I know. We knew you would say that. We knew you would say that. So thank you.
She spoke at the reparations march.
Right.
And she
that's
was
how I
brilliant there too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she lit it up. In fact, I posted her presentation, and she came out, and she's a little sister, right? But she came out with a baseball bat beating up on white supremacy at the reparations march. She was killing it.
I've been posting it every day since June 21st. So she's brilliant and articulate.
Right.
You know what's interesting though, I think that what she said, as she was talking, I didn't say this to her, but I was thinking about something Les Brown was saying recently when he came to New York. He was talking about what makes a great public speaker is someone who can tell a story, right? And he said those people who tell stories are the people that change lives. He said that, this is a direct quote from him. He said, what you listen to is what you turn into.
Right.
And remember, she talked about those stories her mother would tell her, right? And then she talked about the conditions by which her father, right, had overcome starting out at Bell Labs cutting grass. And so she heard all those stories, right? Yeah. And that turned her into the doctor that she is.
Well, we definitely want to start.
Amazing.
Yes, absolutely. But we definitely have you here, Chairman Hamm, and we have you here talking about more about different levels of systemic racism. For the last hour, we're talking about in the medical field and dealing with it in that way. Now we're talking about voting rights. What's going on with voting rights right now? I heard there's a march tomorrow. What's going on?
Well, let me just say before I say a word about voting rights, to once again urge people to get vaccinated. This coronavirus pandemic is going to end up being the worst pandemic in the history of the United States. Prior to coronavirus, the number one spot is held by the Spanish flu, which killed 675,000 people. And that was over several years. Coronavirus 19 and its variants have already killed 646,000 people in 17 months. A report came out just yesterday that another 100,000 people may die before the 31st of December. We're only about 50,000 away from coronavirus becoming the number one killer. And then it's not just the people that are killed, it's the long haulers. 37 million people have been infected in the United States. 1.5 million of them are long haulers. That means they have COVID. They recovered from the COVID, but they have lasting effects that may remain with them for the rest of their lives because the virus attacks all the organs, the brain, the lungs, the heart, et cetera, et cetera. And some people, are more susceptible. So it's a very serious situation. Right now, you kind of ended up with Africa or moving in that direction. I think a comment Zaid made. But right now, the Delta variant is ravaging Africa, particularly Northern Africa. And it's working its way down the continent. And it's just amazing because about 9 months ago, people were saying, well, it looks like coronavirus is not affecting Africa. Now it's ravaging Africa. And in fact, because so few Africans, only 3% of the people on the African continent have been vaccinated, it is likely that a new mutant variant will come out of Africa as powerful, as detrimental, or perhaps even more toxic than COVID-19. So this is a very, very serious situation.
And our folks want the vaccinations.
Say again?
And our folks want the vaccination. Our folks in Africa do not have access to the vaccination.
It's worse than that. Listen, South Africa is the only African nation that can produce the COVID vaccine. It's producing the COVID vaccine and it's selling it to Europe. It can't even sell it. They're not even selling it to Africa because a lot of African countries can't afford it. So they're producing COVID vaccine in South Africa. 100 million doses just have been sold to Europe.
Wow.
Yes. This is the irrationality and insanity of a medical system that's based on profit.
That's right.
That's based on private profit. There should be a worldwide vaccine. The patent should be available to all countries. All countries should be enabled to produce this, and because this don't, it's gonna be significant loss of life, you know, all over the African continent. It's a very grievous, a very serious situation, and unfortunately, you know, a lot of people don't really understand the magnitude of the problem until it affects them personally. Like,
right,
their family member has to die. They got to see their family member intubated on a ventilator. Did y'all talk about Salam Ismail?
No, we didn't give you.
Who was on ABC, and I'm not going to say anything else. I'll end with this because I know y'all brought me on about voting right. Salam is a 35-year friend of mine, an activist from Elizabeth, New Jersey, been in the forefront of the fight against police brutality for decades. You know, Salam was on ABC TV last week from his hospital bed. He's intubated with the tube in his throat from his hospital bed. On ABC TV, he told people that he was wrong to tell people not to get vaccinated.
Right.
He got COVID, and now he's on a respirator. He's intubated in the hospital, and he's telling people to get vaccinated. The situation is very, very serious. And now it's attacking children and young people. In Tennessee right now, 1 out of 3 new infections are children in Tennessee. In Florida, they just hit the highest number of COVID infections since this thing began. Like, not the highest level this year or the highest level with this wave. They got the greatest number of infections since this thing began 18 months ago in Florida. And the Supreme Court just ruled against the governor because the governor was saying school boards didn't have the right to mandate that children should wear masks in school. So people challenged it and took it to the Supreme Court. The governor lost. There's 100 years of case law here, starting with the Jacobson versus Massachusetts case in 1905 that gives the state the right to impose mandates on vaccination.
Emergency, absolutely.
So that's the end. Okay, let's talk. I just get kind of, you know, his sister inspired me. You know, maybe that's why I'm so so.
No, I mean, it was a powerful. She's very powerful. As I said before, when she finished speaking, I wanted to say amen. And never had a doctor or scientist finish speaking and want to say amen at the end. So that was powerful. That was absolutely powerful.
Let me tell you what my epiphany was. I was one of the wait and see people. If anybody had been following me, you know, on Facebook or on other shows, I wasn't telling people to rush out here and get vaccinated.
Right.
I wasn't telling them not to, but I was very skeptical. On other shows, I was grilling people as hard as I could because I did not have any trust whatsoever in the Trump administration.
Right.
And because of that, you know, I was skeptical. But then what did I see? I saw the polls, the data that came out in December, at the end of December of 2020, showing that 59% of white people were getting vaccinated and 3% of black people was getting vaccinated.
Right.
That was my epiphany right there. That rich white people were dressing up like poor people, like poor minorities, getting on planes, flying to Alaska, so that they could jump the line to get the vaccine before anybody else.
Dressing up
So
like old people.
we dying at twice the rate, but being vaccinated at less than half the rate.
Right. Yeah, that was like the epiphany for me too. When I realized that the majority of people who had access to it, who were getting the vaccine when it first came out, were wealthy middle class white people. They were vaccinating predominantly white.
Came in the North to get this.
Right.
Right. So, and one of the things I said to different black people who were like, I'm not taking it. I'm like, you're not going to get a chance to take it till March or April anyway. Just wait and see. Right. Because you don't have access to it. They don't want you to have it right now.
Right. So I got my shots. I got 2 Modernas. I got one in March and I got the second one in April. And in 8 months, which will be for me, December, I'm going to get my booster because I'm 60. I'll be 68 in December. I ain't messing around with this. I get the flu shot every year.
Right.
You know, I ain't messing around with this. I want to go out here in a more substantive way than to die on a ventilator from COVID.
Fair.
That's not how I envision my death, which I know ultimately I will have. You know.
Fair enough. But voting rights.
On voting rights.
Tomorrow, what's going on?
Well, we're going to Washington tomorrow. I mean, I just found out that there were 2 marches tomorrow. I didn't even know there. Actually, did you know there were 2 marches?
I just found out too. There's several. There's several things involved. You know.
Right. But
and that's okay.
I'm going. Yeah, the more the merrier. Hey, the more pressure, the better. You know. But I will be going down to the march that's being called by the civil rights organizations, including the National Action Network, Martin Luther King III, Sharpton, etc. Our bus is leaving at 4 a.m. sharp from 53 Lincoln Park in Newark, New Jersey. And we're going down, you know, to press for the passage of the John Lewis Act and the passage of the For the People Act and the abolition of the filibuster, because they don't abolish the filibuster or make some what they call some carve out, some exception to the filibuster. John Lewis Act is not going to pass. For the People Act are not going to pass. Both of those need to pass in order to protect our voting rights, because there have been 400 bills introduced in 49 states that involve some form of voter suppression. Bills have been passed in 18 states that involve some type of voter suppression. And, you know, here we are in the 21st century,
right,
seeing our ability to vote being in fact, more in jeopardy than it was perhaps after the passage of the 15th Amendment during the Civil War.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a very serious thing. There's a very dangerous situation in the United States today. We have a full-blown fascist movement in this country. Now, if you read the mainstream papers, they use words like authoritarian. I think that's a whitewash. It's a full-blown fascist movement. These people are intent on seizing power. The Republican Party can no longer win national elections because they are outnumbered. The only way they can win is at the state level in these states where their parties are strongest at this particular moment. So they've been stealing elections probably since 2000.
Right.
You know, since the George Bush election. Right. He stole that election was given to by the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. They can't win anymore. So now what do fascists do? Oppress people, what do? We play by the rules. Fascists abandon the rules. For them, it's about holding on to power by what? Any means necessary. And now we see including violence. And if you think that January the 6th was the end of it, you're very naive. You know, they just busted a guy down there the other day. He didn't actually have a bomb, but he had the bomb making materials in his truck. And he was planning to blow up one of the congressional buildings. They openly talk about it. I mean, you don't have to go far. You can see news clips. They go to school board meetings instead of city council meetings, openly talking about there are millions of us and we're armed and we're going to take back our country.
Right. Now, when you say that we are living in a state that has a fascist movement in it, one of the criticisms of the left before is that they called a lot of people fascists, right? Like the Republicans under racists under Reagan were fascist, under Bush was fascist. Do you think we overuse the term and people are desensitized to it? And do you think that this is an actual no, this is like tiki torch fascist, like they don't respect democracy. They are actually trying to overthrow like democracy in America.
Actually,
is there a difference?
Yes, they're fascists. Do I think it's overused? No. No. The problem is right now, most Americans really don't know what fascism is. Most people don't know what fascism is. You know what most people think? Most people think that Adolf Hitler, with long, tall, black jack boots on in a military uniform, seized power in Germany, like with a military coup. It didn't happen. Hitler was elected. Most people know Mussolini was elected. There was no military coup. Yeah, they walked around in their fascist uniform, but they were elected. And that's the same thing that's going down here. And they have met, and they're coming to power in a system that is tilted toward them. And it's tilted toward them by virtue of the very constitution of the country.
Can you break that down? Can you explain to us why these marches are so important? Why it's important that people just need to be out?
Well, the marches are important because marches draw attention to the issue. But it takes much more than marches to make this fight. Marches are one arrow in the quiver. I love marches. I like to march. It's one of the things that, you know, I like to do. But I'm not under any illusions that simply marching by itself is going to do it. Marching is a way to draw attention to an issue. And it's also a way to put pressure on those who are in power to make decisions. But you need marches, you need legislation, you need legal challenges, you need economic boycotts, you need intellectual analyses, you need good journalism, investigative journalism, and on and on and on. You need a multiplicity of tactics in order to have an effective strategy to challenge these people. You see, our country was what is the essence of fascism? And you hit on it, Jonathan. The essence of fascism is its anti-democratic nature. Fascism really is based on power and might. It's not based on participatory democracy. And the fact of the matter is, this country was not founded as a participatory democracy. It was founded as an oligopoly, essentially founded as a country ruled by an elite of wealthy persons.
Which is why only property owners could vote in the beginning of the United States.
Most people don't know that. Not just white people, only white men with property could vote.
White male property
men without property could not vote. People talk about the founding fathers and the democracy. You start hearing the Star-Spangled Banner in your head and all this other stuff. These people built a closed system from the beginning. From the beginning. And it was weighted in favor of that faction of the wealthy that were involved in slavery, which was the #1 economic engine of this country up until the time of the Civil War. Slavery was the primary engine of capital accumulation from the time that the colonies were founded until the time that the South was finally defeated.
Make it plain. That's right. We were the capital.
People talk about farming and all of these. Slavery. In 1860, the largest form of capital in the United States was the capital invested in slavery. It was larger than banking capital and industrial capital combined. And so the slave masters had a weighted system. When they first sat down, they said, okay, you know, we're going to divide this thing up. Every state going to get a piece. And the ones in the South and the ones that were primarily the big slave owners, because there were slave owners up here too, but the big plantation slave owners, they were like, wait a minute, if you base this system on population, we lose. So they said they weren't going to ratify the Constitution unless there was some guarantees in it that they would have equal or greater power. And that's what they got. That's what the 3/5 compromise was all about. It was about giving them more population so that they could have what? So that they could have more representatives in the Congress and have a Congress that would in fact carry out their will. And if that wasn't enough with the Congress, then they put together an electoral college.
That's right.
Like, you know, people under the illusion somehow that we elect the president. The electoral college elects the president. And the electoral college was a system, was a body that was essentially established again to give more weight to the Southern colonies. And if that wasn't enough, then there's the U.S. Senate. All of this worked in tandem to give them more power over the century. I mean, think about it. California got 40 million people. Rhode Island got 500,000 people. Rhode Island gets 2 senators and California gets 2 senators. Tell me what is democratic about that. But
they were put in the Constitution to be anti-democratic to begin with.
That's right.
Which is why I don't really understand why senators are like, we can't get rid of the filibuster, because the filibuster only benefits Republicans. It doesn't benefit.
The filibuster ain't even in the damn Constitution.
No,
it's a house rule.
That's right.
It's an agreed upon house rule. It's like we're gonna play cards. We're gonna play Uno, right?
Right.
And we're gonna make up some rules, make up our own Uno rules, right? The filibuster ain't even in the Constitution. It's a Senate practice.
So the filibuster is kind of like when you play Uno and you're like, I'm stacking draw 4s.
Right. It was a Senate practice designed from the beginning to stop legislation that had anything to do with the abolition of slavery. It was first used by John Calhoun, who in the Senate was the foremost defender of slavery.
Yep. Calhoun was a member of a prominent college, and I think recently had a residential college not named that, like taking his name off of that residential college. Yeah, John Calhoun, vehement segregationist, racist, slaver, you name it.
That's right. So what we're faced with today is fascism in American colors. This is not Germany. This is not Italy. This is not Hungary. This is not Brazil. This is the United States of America. So when political ideologies get a grip in societies, they don't all manifest themselves in the same way. They manifest themselves according to the culture and the norms of that society. So we don't have brown shirts like Hitler had, or black shirts like Mussolini had. And this is real. Hitler's people, before they came to power, the Nazis wore brown. That's where the term brown shirt comes from. They wore brown shirts. And they went around beating people up. You know, any parties that opposed them, they went in, they wrecked their meetings, they broke up their rallies, they attacked their people violently. And that's what Mussolini people did in the black shirt. And by the way, Mussolini came first. Hitler had a picture of Mussolini hanging in his office. The word fascist comes from Italy, as a matter of fact. So fascism manifests itself differently here. But do you know, in Germany, they had brown shirts. Italy, they had black shirts. But in America, they had red shirts. You know, before the Klan, there were the red shirts. Before they got up the idea to have these white robes, there were guys that rode around with these red shirts on, you know, who essentially did the same kind of thing that the Klan did. The South was a fascist state. The Confederacy was a fascist state. Black people didn't have the right to vote. Nobody had the right to vote except white people, and mostly white people with property. It was a fascist state. It wasn't democratic. This is why the United States, Jonathan, and you know this as a school teacher, this is why the United States looks to classical Greece and classical Rome.
Right.
Because they were slave states. But they don't tell us that in high school. They tell us about Aristotle, and they tell us about Plato, and they tell us about the Athenians, and they tell us about the Spartans. These were all slave states. And that's why the United States based itself. When those founding fathers were coming together, they were looking at Rome and Greece, because Rome and Greece were societies built on slavery. You know, we glorify the Spartans in these movies like the 600 and all that. The Spartans were some of the most egregious. They had an annual celebration. Their slaves were called helots. And once a year, the sons of the Spartan leaders could go out and literally could hunt and kill the helots.
Wow.
Kill them. And in that way, that was their rite of passage into Spartan society. There was nothing to glorify. That's why Sparta fell. It collapsed. They were so busy being fascist and militaristic that they forgot about the farming and the other things people need to have a society, and they collapsed in on itself. But here in the United States, the Republican Party is now the titular head of the fascist movement in this country. It is a racist, fascist, white nationalist party. They have made their bed with them and made their alliance with them. And they're going to do anything. I mean, it's crazy. They're doing stuff that these old racists in 1955 couldn't think of doing to try to keep us from. And people talk about black studies. They're outlawing black studies right now. Down there in Texas, they outlawed. They took Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail out of the curriculum.
Wow.
By legislation, not by a decision of the superintendent.
Right.
They passed the law. They took out King. They took out Cesar Chavez. They took out Helen Keller. Anybody that gave any hint.
Wow, they took out Helen Keller too? They took out Helen Keller?
Yes.
Wow.
You know, Helen Keller was a socialist. People don't know that. Just like most people don't know Einstein was a socialist.
That's right.
Fair.
That's right.
The Einstein supported civil rights. When the state was trying to lock up W.E.B. Du Bois, Einstein came to the rescue of Dr. Du Bois and brought the full weight of his reputation and his prestige onto the courts to free W.E.B. Du Bois and to not lock him up and put him in jail.
In his 80s.
But
they make this stuff up.
But this is what's going on in America right now. And it's crazy. And the same people who oppose vaccines are the same people who seized the Capitol.
Wow.
I mean, look, just yesterday, the police organizations came out against vaccines because the mayor of New York and the mayor of Los Angeles are telling the cops they got to get vaccinated. The cop leaders came out and denounced the vaccine. These are the same FOP unions that supported Donald Trump. They the same people. And it's a repeat of history. All you got to do is go back to 1933. I can show you a cartoon right now from I forgot what, it might have been the Atlantic or one of those other magazines that were in existence at that time. Here they had the racists, the fascists, what else they call them, the know-nothings and the anti-vaxxers, arm in arm, getting ready to go over the cliff into the ocean of smallpox.
Wow.
Because in 33, they all opposed the smallpox vaccination. How many children would be dead today if it wasn't for the smallpox vaccine?
Fair. I mean, like everything you're saying, man, like you are hitting it on the nail, right? Like as in, and I appreciate your breaking down of what fascism is and what fascism isn't. We are running out of time in this particular segment, but is there something that you would like to end on? I'm going to actually bring on the next guest on as well, because like it's always good to have mix up sometimes at this point. But what can you tell us more about voting rights, the marches, and what we need to do?
Well, we're all going to Washington tomorrow, and that's good. But the real test is what we do when we come back from the march on Washington. And we have to continue to put the pressure on, to put the pressure on on our congressional delegation, to put the pressure on the Senate leaders, because the House done passed all these things. The House has passed the John Lewis bill. The House has passed the For the People Act, because the Democrats have a majority by 3, by the way. They only have a 3-person majority in the House. And now it's on the Senate. And in the Senate, most of the senators want to pass it, but it's just 2. It's Manchin and Sinema. Manchin from West Virginia and Sinema from Arizona. They're supposed to be Democrats, but they acting like Republicans. And it's really now we got to put the pressure on Biden. Biden has to bring the weight of his office to bear and let them know that they have to pass this legislation. Because if they don't pass these bills, they are going to steal this election in 22. They're going to get back the House, and they're going to steal the election in 24. And they're going to get back the Senate and the White House.
And they already got the Supreme Court.
That's right. And they're going to do it through these voter suppression bills. They're going to do it through gerrymandering. I mean, the Democrats are going to lose 10 seats just from
gerrymandering. Right.
The census we went through. Why is the census so important? Because that's how the population is determined. And that's how the population in each congressional district is fixed, so that you can have a congressional, a congressional district.
Right.
So now, because of this last census, states where the Democrats are in control, some of those states lost population. So we're going to, just by gerrymandering, we're going to lose some Democratic representatives and lose the House. And that's going to be disastrous.
Right.
And I'm willing to debate anybody on this.
No. I think your analysis is spot on.
It's not going to be no different. You're going to see the difference. You're seeing the difference now.
You see it now, right? And again, as I said before, I think your analysis is spot on. And we're going to have you back, right? We're going to have you back talking about this. We're going to have you back talking about the and a lot, because this is a series of updates need to be done on this in terms of just how it deals with our current senators. Are there or how do we put pressure? And what is the strategy on putting pressure on the 2 senators who are against it? Because I think the only 2 senators who are against modifying the filibuster in this way, even though it doesn't help, the filibuster doesn't help Democrats.
Right. So, it doesn't help. And I'm telling you, let me end with this. The one that has to be moved is Biden. Biden, let me tell you you know how LBJ got the Civil Rights Act passed?
How?
He called a special session of Congress. And he addressed the Congress. And he told the members of his party, it's there on YouTube. I'm not making anything up.
Right.
LBJ called a special session of Congress and addressed Congress and said this had to be done. It was to the peril of the country if they didn't do it. And that's how the Voting Rights Act got passed, that's how the Civil Rights Act got passed, and the Voting Rights Act got passed the following year. Now, the story is a little more complex, but my segment is over, so I'm not going to go into it.
Well, Larry,
just to say that the pressure has to be put on these people, and the president is the one that has to do it. He has to do it.
So definitely, Larry, we're going to have you back. I'm going to also just say, and departing, make sure that book, got to finish that book, because you got so much. I'm always going to ask you about that.
You ain't lying.
And there's too important to pass up. DJ Rhino, do you want to ask that final question?
Oh, Larry Hamm is already Gil Scott Heron. I already know.
That's right.
Okay. All right.
I want to give a shout out tonight though to Rebel Diaz.
Okay.
I think he's trying to bring the message right and through his art. Rebel Diaz.
Rebel Diaz. All right. That's what's up.
Straight out of the Bronx, but we're in Chile.
Okay.
And thank you so much, Chairman Hamm.
All right.
As always, and we're always honored, like seriously honored to have you
Plus
here.
tomorrow, 4
Always
o'clock.
honored to have you on our
Lincoln
program.
Park.
All right. Power to the people.
Power to the
Peace.
people.
All power to
All right,
the people.
peace. All right, that is All Politics Are Local, America's number one hip-hop radio talk show. We are honored to have on the DJ Rhino State of Hip Hop segment. We are honored to have back.
So on time.
Family.
Yes, Hakim Greene.
Greene has come home.
Yes.
What up, family? Peace. What's good?
All right, we in
And
there,
how are
man.
you?
We good, man.
Everything's good. We getting ready for 24 hours apiece. We got a week left to get right, but it's moving. It's good. It's gonna be a big year this year. And you got the right shirt on, brother. Rhino.
Yes, sir.
You already know what it is.
I wanted to ask you real quick. Is this the first time since the pandemic of 24 hours apiece?
Yes, the last one was 2019.
Nice.
Big shout out to Tanisha Harrell who made that happen. She put it all together. I want to salute her for keeping the energy going, keeping the spirit going. She did her thing. That was 2019. That's the last time we did it.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what's up, man. Like ever since y'all been doing 24 hours apiece, I've been supporting it, man. I didn't get to make it to the 2019. I didn't get to make it to that one. But I'm always at those, man, because you know it's right there, man, on Clinton Ave. You know what I'm saying? It's just right there in the hood, man.
That's right. Man, well, no, this year we on Broader Market though.
Okay, that's even bigger.
And when y'all ready, I'll let y'all know what the lineup is. But before we get there, I was hoping to just give some background history on 24 hours apiece. And yeah.
All right,
so,
real quick. I wanted to do this real quick.
Okay.
Because you did acknowledge this, I want to. It's only right that we start off with just paying respects to the brother Scott LaRock. 34 years ago today, we lost the brother Scott LaRock.
Rest in peace, Scott LaRock.
Yeah,
so 34 years.
That's
34
today.
Damn.
Yeah.
Time flies,
Hip
man.
hoppers
Time
are getting
flies.
old.
No, we get better. We don't get old. I get better.
Right.
We get old.
That's right. But peace to the brother Scott LaRock. He was in the middle of trying to break up a beef that was going on over a girl or something.
That was 34 years ago.
And somebody took a shot. It wasn't even meant for Scott LaRock, but somebody took a shot, and Scott LaRock caught the shot, and he took the fall, man. So rest in peace to Scott LaRock. It was right after the explosion of their first album, Criminal Minds.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And
no
they
doubt.
were on their way, man. I mean, you think about how big that first album was, the impact that first album made. It was almost like, when Run DMC first dropped or something. Like when you have that first debut album that just blows people out the water, that was Criminal Minded, man. And in the midst of in the middle of the success of that album, we lost Scott LaRock.
We lost Scott LaRock, and it's just
Big ups to Scott LaRock.
The what ifs are real big when it comes to Scott LaRock. What if Scott LaRock would have, if he wouldn't have got murdered? What if with BDP? What if with KRS? What if with, because he was one of the first hip hoppers that was thinking business, starting his own label, production company. His relationships with the core foundation, it was just tight. So, everybody was expecting Scott to be that entrepreneur, hip hop mogul early before it was such a thing. Right. And have him taken from us before we could really feel that. It was disappointment for everybody. But I'm just happy to be connected with such a tradition, when you talk about BDP, that's authenticity. KRS-One, the teacher, the greatest of all time in my book. It's just an honor. So yeah, man.
So going from that, and I definitely want to talk to you about the summer stage performance with KRS and Mo D and everybody.
Oh yeah,
about that also. But going from this subject, talking about losing Scott LaRock to gun violence and and all that. Let's talk about 24 hours apiece. Let's talk about the background of 24 hours apiece. How did you come up to the point of creating 24 hours apiece?
Well, 24 hours apiece. I had the battery on my back again from KRS-One when we reinitiated the Stop the Violence movement in 2007, 2008.
put together this project called Self Construction. We organized all the rappers at the time: Busta, Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, Talib Kweli, Styles P, Styles and Jada, Method Man, Redman, West Coast, East Coast Game got involved. It's just all of hip hop came together to say stop the violence. We raise some money and do some things around that. And then I came back home to Newark, New Jersey in 2010. I went to Central High School to catch up with my old friend Raz Baraka, and said I had this series of programmings under the Stop the Violence Movement banner. He said, go to IYO. So I went to IYO. I got with Bowie. Big shout out to him. And we started, again, touching down with young folks, using hip hop culture to organize and, trying to reach them through the culture. And then at the same time, looking at the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition every Wednesday for 5.5 years straight, protest the violence and crime in our community.
155 straight weeks.
Come on now. So, black people always protesting police brutality, but they never protest black on black crime.
Right.
That's a lie. That's not true.
I always go on there on people with that, man, because especially folks of another shade, they like to go in on that real quick. What about black crime? I'm like, well, we address black on black crime all the time. At least I know in my hood.
That's right.
Black crime all the time, so that's not an issue, and neither is that your business. That's not you. This is our community. We got this. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing.
No doubt. So just being inspired by the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition, my homie Tayari and the good brother TJ Whitaker. Young up under Baba Zaid, might I add. We know we get the knowledge from. We're like, you need to take hip hop culture, infuse it with what the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition is doing, so we can really engage the community and bring them in. And then Mitty, the chief of staff of then South Ward Councilman Raz Baraka, now Mayor Raz Baraka, said, "Yo, we got to do a 24-hour demonstration, huh? 24 hours. We got to make a statement. We got to let people know that they can come outside and be safe in the streets. Young people, old people, it don't matter. We want to feel the love for 24 hours straight."
That's dope.
That's how we came up with 24 hours of peace. Love, unity, safely having fun.
That's dope. That's dope. So what year was the very first one that y'all did?
2010.
2010.
Yeah, 2010 was the first one. It was actually 12 hours of peace because it was Hurricane Irene had boogied through about 4 a.m. So we had to shut it down, but it was a tremendous turnout. It was really, really dope. But we had to pack it up a little early. But every year after, it's been 24 hours. In 2016, we did 28 hours. This year, we're doing 28 hours. Broad and market. We got to do it big. Now, I'm holding on this lineup. Let me know when y'all ready for it.
Bro, we ready.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. You sure y'all want to talk about something else before we go there?
No. You got the gun on the table, you might as well fire.
So, of course, we got, DJ Little Man, who's actually co-produced. Yeah,
that's Ross's DJ right there. I always call him the mayor's DJ.
He's a DJ of the epidemic.
Yeah, right. But he's so
the one
important.
that got everyone, got our minds right. He saved so many lives.
Yeah, he did.
He's like the DJ who did the DJ of that whole self-care therapy. That was DJ therapy he was doing up there in 2020.
Yeah, man. And what he's doing in the community with Occupy the Block and preaching stop the violence, pushing peace, and he's just an important part of the community. So to have him as a co-producer this year is amazing for me. We got a lot of local legends, Mitty Murdoch's performing, 050 Boys performing, Leah Janae's supposed to be making an appearance. Fat Boy is going to be hosting on Saturday.
Wow.
So but on Saturday, that's more directed toward the younger generation. They have a new style of hip hop that they're into and immersed in. So we want to salute them and celebrate them and honor them with the day. Jersey's the house capital of the world. True. No disrespect to Chicago, but you got to come to Jersey, you really feel the real house music. Mm-hmm. So what Little Man's doing with Team DJ Little Man and, Jersey Club series is right on point with Saturday, but he's bringing out P&B Rock to really set Saturday off right. And give the younger generation something that they could, Now Friday, that's my world.
Okay.
That's my world. And what up, Tyari? I see you, brother. Yeah, son.
Yeah.
24 hours apiece. Just for everybody to know, Tyari's the one who said, "Yo, Hop, we need to bring hip hop out there, dude. You need to bring
That's how he
it."
said it. That's right.
Tyari, got to give him his credit. Got to give credit where credit is due. That's Tyari right there.
Hey,
But,
shout out to Tyari.
No doubt, no doubt. But on Friday, we're gonna have a nice, a beautiful ceremony put together honoring victims of violence, be it police brutality, gun violence, gang violence, domestic violence. Have our director of offensive violence prevention, Director Keisha Uri's gonna say some words. We're gonna have a nice little tribute to folks who've gone through that type of trauma and stress, and we're gonna keep the moving along. Freeway and Beans is gonna do a set. Freeway and Beanie Siegel is gonna do a set.
That's crazy.
I got my brother Giant from the Bartenders that come out every year to 24 hours apiece, but they got this album project with the next artist I'm gonna mention coming right off his battle at Madison Square Garden against Dipset. We got Jadakiss, ladies and gentlemen. Jadakiss is coming through. 24 hours apiece.
Jadakiss is gonna be at 24 hours apiece this year.
Jadakiss is gonna be at 24 hours apiece this year.
That's crazy.
Nice.
Now, we got Mr. C gonna come through and hit the 1 and 2s and get it right.
A lot of love for Newark, man. I recognize he play a lot of Artifacts songs and all kinds of stuff, man. He got a lot of love for Jersey.
Yeah, love Mr. C. He comes through with 24 hours. It's not his first time. He's come through several times, and he does a lot of stuff. I said in the Jersey area, giving Jersey that love. So I figure it's only right we have Mr. C kind of warm it up. And since he warmed it up for Kane this year, he's gonna warm it up for KRS-One, who's performing at 24 hours apiece.
Oh,
damn.
The teacher has come.
The teacher. Come to the teacher. Come to the teacher. Come to the teacher. So he said, "Come to the teacher."
Got the teacher coming.
Got the teacher coming through Newark, New Jersey, Broad Market for 24 hours apiece. Yeah.
Nice.
We got Freeway and Beanie Siegel.
And KRS-One? What?
That's what I'm saying. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I got to tell y'all a KRS-One story that'll crack y'all up.
And Freeway and Beans.
Locked in. Wow. We're going hard on promotion starting tonight, so make sure y'all.
Yeah. I'm gonna push it.
We need thousands of people on Broadway Market for this, yo. We need
thousands. I got my show tomorrow on Twitch. I'm definitely gonna shout that out, man, and make sure, man, that cats know about that because that's crazy.
Yeah, it's Friday. It's Friday and Saturday, September 3rd through the 4th, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Starts on 6 p.m. on Friday, and we go straight to 10 p.m. on Saturday. 24 hours, 28 hours apiece.
Right on. Yep, that's it. That's
28.
Right.
And again, what are the dates of that again?
September 3rd and 4th, Friday, Saturday, next week, a week from the day.
Oh, Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend. What better way to set off Labor? See, here you go. What better way to celebrate the Virgos, right?
Yeah.
Virgos in the building.
Virgos are cool in the game.
The school season starts. We want to give everybody the right tone. Peace, love, unity, safety, having fun. 24 hours apiece.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all right, so we have about 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes left. DJ
Rhino. Got bars.
Let me ask you.
I got bars. I got bars.
Well, I know you got bars. Before we get to any bars, now we got 3 minutes left. You were at the Bronx Summer Stage. Am I correct?
Universal Hip Hop Museum's Summer Series.
Yeah.
With the city of New York. Yeah.
Who else was there?
Man, everybody. Busy B, Kumo D, Razcast showed up. Grandmaster Melly Mel and the Furious Five was in the building. Cutman LG was in the building. EPMD was in the building. CL Smooth was in the building.
Right. CL. That was beautiful to see CL up there, man. That was beautiful. I think that was the first performance that I caught with CL's, man. That was dope. That was real dope to see him up there. But yo, man, was it crazy? Well, for me, it was crazy to see Busy B almost play hype man to KRS-One on stage, man. That was so gangster to me. To me, that was dope. Like when you talk about like some real hip hop, you talk about like passing the torch down and all of that. Like, you know what I mean? Like Busy Bee was the chief rocker, the party rocker.
He is the chief rocker, the party rocker.
Right. And for him to almost be like the hype man, the Flavor Flav to KRS's Chuck D in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like he had, he had all of the lines, he had all of the ad libs and stuff with KRS. That was beautiful, man.
I've been being on the that
was crazy, bro.
Being on the road with KRS-One, I've seen that combination quite a few times. Busy B's been hype manning for KRS for years.
That's
and
dope.
it's that love and respect that KRS wants to keep the legends in the limelight, keep legends at the forefront of our minds. So bringing him out, Tila Rock, Kumo D,
man, that was dope too.
It's crazy, dude. It was an awesome week. I was so honored to be a part of it. But 24 Hours of Peace next 3rd and 4th. Next week, 3rd and 4th, we doing it big. Freeway Beans, Jadakiss, KRS-One. That's how we doing it. Mr. C, P&B Rock, DJ Little Man, 24 Hours of Peace. Roz Baraka, represent.
Yes, sir. Hip hop is back outside, y'all.
Yeah, we are.
Nice.
All right.
Hip hop grown up.
I got these bars, though.
Yo, you want to kick some bars real quick before you up out of here?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, man.
All right. If pimping ain't easy, what is revolution? Rappers be spitting straight noise pollution. Here's a clean glass of water. I show you how to eat to live. What goes around comes. Let me show you how to give. That's something that you hear when the 9 is at your rib. In the street, tuck your jewels. Thugs drew like baby bibs. I try to be mindful. Write something for the kids. Talk it like I walk it. Rap it how I live. I came up blue collar. Strive to be a scholar, but I couldn't eat the love. I nearly starved without the dollar. The pressure and the stress is enough to make you holler when the landlord's at your doorstep and the devil's on your collar. They call me a slacker because I won't sell crack for the cracker. I call women queens and I love to bury blacker. Some chicks get it twisted. They'd rather be called with they in the air like everybody's supposed to kiss it. It's a simple lesson. You get what you deserve. So if life up or just a pimp with a perm, seeing mommy tricked out made her little heart burn, but it's something she'll forget when it's time to take her turn. When will the children learn? It's much better to earn, but when I put in work, they like to make the metal burn. End up in the system, it's all systematic. Manchurian candidates, waving automatics. A product of a project launched in the 80s. Chemical warfare meant to kill the crack babies. Now as the world turns, is it just a story? Because keeping it real got my sons in purgatory. Jewelry, ladies and gentlemen, that's jewelry.
Blaze it. That's shining like jewelry too, Blaze.
Jewelry.
Right on.
It's them lessons and them jewels you get from the OGs like Baba Saeed when you just sit at the feet of the elders and they telling you, listen, young man, young lady, watch out for this, watch out for that. You got to check that. I see what you're doing. I ain't trying to, but you want to watch because it's coming around the corner. You got duck.
Right. That's right.
Jewelry.
Right.
Jewelry.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean,
Wisdom, man.
I'm an English teacher. I love poetry. Love what you do, man.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you, brother. Love what y'all do. Yeah, man.
That's
and DJ Rhino, you took a test, right?
Huh?
You took a test?
Took a test for what?
It's my joint called Took a Test. I took a test to become an MC. Make some from nothing by uttering the word. Y'all don't get it? I must be stuttering from the herb. Y'all be cluttering in the burbs, hovering with nerds. I'm trying to build shelter from the oncoming purge. Donald Trump is tripping. I'm trying to stave the surge. Do it for the bricks when Springfield Ave and Market merge. Get my brothers out the county. See the city reemerge. I'm trying to keep it straight for my people living on the curve. Anyway.
Yeah, I gotta see if I got that. I gotta see if you sent me that.
I'm gonna send it to you right now.
All right, because I'm looking right now to see if I got it in my file.
I took a test to become an MC and didn't. The rhymes I say sharp as a nail. Witty as could be, not for sale. Always funky fresh, could never be stale. Took a test to become an MC and didn't fail.
That's right.
Don't stop.
Classic Run DMC quote right there.
Has come home.
Yeah. 24 Hours of Peace, September 3rd and 4th, next Friday and Saturday, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Broad and Market. We're going to be in the building talking peace, love, unity, safely having fun. DJ Little Man, P&B Rock, Beans, Freeway, Jadakiss, KRS-One, Mr. C. Wow. The mayor of the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Roz Baraka, Come out and support, y'all. We doing it
Shorty
big.
for mayor. Shorty for mayor. Shorty for mayor. Shorty for mayor.
Hey, so DJ Rhino, I also want you to shout out. Can you shout out the Twitch, where you'll be on Twitch tomorrow again, please?
Oh yeah, every Saturday at 3 p.m. I'm on twitch.tv/Rhino CMZ.
Ride, Rhino, ride. He be blazing.
/Rhino CMZ. The name of the show is The Shake Up with CMZ at 3. The Shake Up with CMZ at 3 every Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. Twitch.tv/Rhino CMZ. Check me out. Straight hip hop. It's all vibes. Sometimes it ain't hip hop. Sometimes it's, I can get into some funk, some soul, some break beats, whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's all about
you are definitely an eclectic intellectual DJ.
Indeed.
Right? Like it's all in your head. That's why I'm like, you really are an artist, right? You really are also like an artist.
Yeah. And I want to throw it out to Hawk, man. Maybe next year or one of these years coming up, man. Get me on there as a DJ, bro.
Yeah, we've tried several times, but you're always working.
Wow.
Every time we try to believe, like, oh man, I'm at the station. Oh man, I can't do it. I got another job. Yeah, but no doubt, no doubt. But we right down the block. So when you get off next week, just boogie on down there. Let's make it happen.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? Because as a matter of fact, we'll talk later about that because I think there's a lot of integration that could happen, man. So let's do that. All right. So this is another week. Thank you so much. We had great guests on tonight. We had the Disciples on.
Yes.
Speaking, right? Like talking about a lot of good stuff about their initiatives on peace. Like we're starting and ending on peace. They were talking about a lot of their conflict initiatives and how the clergy is involved in the de-escalation of violence as part of that movement across faiths, right? Then we had Dr. Chris Pernell, amazing doctor and communicator of medical issues, which is so important, especially in this time. We've learned so much on her about COVID, so thank you for that. And we had Larry Hamm breaking down both COVID and doing things on the Voting Rights Act and the importance of that. And of course, Hakim Greene, you and DJ Rhino, thank you both. 24 hours apiece. We appreciate you. That's
perfect.
Thank you for y'all. For real.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you back. This is another week on All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop radio talk show. And we are out. Another week, we are out.
You don't stop.